The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Use the front door.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ganja Gospel. I am your co-host, Ember Lalana, the
She's
hippie
the
witch.
hostess with the mostest. There ain't no code
Yes,
to it.
there is.
And I'm your other host, TwizTD RootZ. We're smoking on Dreamweaver today. We're about to weave some dreams to you. Shout out to the network over there with the Toking and the Dorkening network and Hellfire Radio.
Yes.
You guys are fucking awesome. Make sure you guys go check them out. You're watching us on TwizTD RootZ channel right now. We're going to get into the Book of Giants.
The Book of Giants, the Book of Og, Enoch, and the Giants, to be precise. We are on chapter 3. We finished chapter 1 and 2 last week, and that was interesting. TwizTD didn't want to stop.
No, I didn't.
I made him stop.
It's so good. This is like, this is the story you fiend for. It's all about chopping of the dick. No, for real.
It is, though.
It's
it really is.
circumcision. This is that was
the origins of
the first mark of the beast. I always talk about being Cain. Well, it was because until Cain, there was never anyone bad, you know what I'm saying? Then Cain got the first mark with no beard, and then they put the second mark on the people with chopping the cocks off, you know, and cut the tips off and shit. Circumcised, that was the second mark of the beast, as they described it. That was something that made it racist for them. The racism's all over from the gods down, you know. So it's like I was trying to get.
I was like, since you're talking,
I was trying to like do this. I was getting the ash off the tray over here, but anyway. But it's like this whole separation thing came down from day one. Now here we got. Do you got a circumcised penis or not? Do you have a beard or not? That was the first difference that no one really talks about because he just walks his happy ass out the Bible. Cain does, Cain, right? But the first true mark of the beast was the circumcision to show that you were different than the other people. Remember, the so-called God you're following doesn't have a circumcised penis. There was never anything to be circumcised. They are written that they're born with no foreskin. It's made perfect. Mm-hmm. So we are made with foreskin. So remember, it's all about this. We're going to get into it, though. What up, Becca?
Hey, what's going on?
So,
cheers, everybody. If you are joining us in any platform, welcome, and we appreciate the fuck out of you for being here. In case you did want to join the discussion, we are chatting in the TwizTD RootZ YouTube channel. All the links are down below, so share the love and fill the pews, load your offerings, smoke them up, open your mind, and let's get ready to dive in.
Yeah, where did we leave off anyway?
Well, unfortunately, this one doesn't have like a synopsis necessarily like the other one, but we are now on chapter 3. We left off with the death of the moon child. That was the end of chapter 2.
Now, if you guys don't remember what the moon child is, right? So there's Nephilim, there's God, which is the Elohims, the gods, which are the Elohims, the first Anunnaki that came here. The Nephilim, which are also called the Agigi. The Nephilim, when they came to earth, became the fallen angels in your biblical stories, right? These Nephilim took naked ladies off the land, banged the shit out of them, and giants begot giants. Those giants became what we call the Raphaim, whatever. Those Raphaim are who we're talking about here. Now, throughout time, there was battles and shit, and there was one Raphaim queen left. There was one Raphaim female. Now, this female needed to give birth to another moonchild female, or so that the Raphaim people could keep going. What am I in? They wanted their Raphaim race to keep going. Their fallen angel children, right? The children of the rocket ships. They wanted them to keep going. So they had this moonchild thing, remember? So they got the last giant female pregnant. Then they came in, I think she died. She might have died at when she was giving birth to this giant baby.
She was on 10 years of bed rest.
10 years of bed rest.
She had 10 years of bed rest.
Oh, no, that was after she gave birth to Og.
Right.
But then later,
Gaia or whatever.
when she gave birth to the moonchild.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
When she gave birth to the moonchild later, I think that one killed her, or they ended up coming to kill her. But they were trying to, there's two sides here, right? Yeah. There's the circumcised, the uncircumcised. So they were trying to get that fucking baby back. What up, John? How you doing? What's happening?
Cheers. Hello, hello.
So they're trying to get this fucking baby to grow up so they can keep this race going, but yet don't hold. There's fucking a war happened and this baby gets injured. And so that's the death of the moonchild, that this baby can never grow up and basically be a breeding project and have a whole bunch of Raphaims, a whole bunch of giants. So they're pissed off as fuck that there's the other side, which is your biblical Christians and your Israelites. So the black people killed the moonchild, right? This is just part of their curse, right? How we were talking before all this on my Twisted RootZ channel. We talked about you white devils out there, you fucking white devils. You killed we were supposed to get the moonchild to make more babies, and the fucking black people killed the fucking moonchild, right? And it says it here. It says it right here, right? Now, mind you, as time went on, everyone got mixed up, and now we're all sitting here with circumcised dicks. You know what I'm saying? Which means it puts us in a group that maybe you might not want to have been in if you could have had the choice. Because girls don't have that problem. Did you know, though, that just like boys get that our sacrifice, your father's flesh and blood sacrifice is your foreskin. That's his sacrifice to God, is you. Instead of, killing us and they drink your blood, now it's the foreskin. The women used to get acid poured on their clitoris, which as a baby, it would just burn it off as a little baby, and it would never be pleasure. That's a true fact, man.
Taking away our pleasure. The fuck?
True fact.
Cheers, Rick.
True fact. So why would they take the woman's clit away, though? What if the clitoris is of the animal part? What if the true Anunnaki woman doesn't have a clit? What if they don't have a clit? Just G-spots, just no clit. Because males got foreskin, women got a clit. It's like the little dick coming out. It's weird.
They said that they were made in like them.
Except our penises. Except our penises were different. So what would determine a woman to be different? Maybe it's the little penis head sticking out. Because in some writings, these gods were male and female together. They were hermaphrodite. That's in some writings. I'm not saying it's true or not. I'm just saying in some writings they said that they were hermaphrodites and could basically interbreed with themselves. I think that's genetic code for, hey, man, we could just make people like that. Let's hear this, though. That was the moonchild, though. That was the moonchild, and this is what sparks this whole shit. They're pissed as fuck.
So the Lost Book of King Og, chapter 3, the giants of the 100,000 giant war. This is the telling of the 100,000 giant war, as transcribed by both Enoch, the keeper of the bodies before Baal, and Anzal, the slayer in smaller selves before Baal of the moon. These are the deeds of the giants who fought with King Og against Nimrod. For 4 hour days were passed in wrath, and our war is the tale that is told.
What's it say? 4 hour days?
4 hour days, not four.
Oh,
4
hour days was what?
4 hour days were passed in wrath, and our war is the tale that is told.
So in the past days, they were war stricken, wrath with war. And they're telling their past stories of all they did was war because of this moon child.
King Og sent throughout all the known world for uncircumcised Rephaim to fight Nimrod and his circumcised army. And the word went forth to every outpost of giants, and they came. The six-fingered, the mountain builders, the heavy weapon makers from the cold lands, the dragon siblings from the east, and the 20,000 giants that came with them.
Okay, now we got.
I have one more sentence in this
okay.
one. All in all, 100,000 giants representing every colony, color, and creed in the known world.
Now, where's that at right here?
This whole paragraph right there.
All right, now I'm gonna try to read without glasses on. I got.
Let me go get your fucking glasses.
Right behind me. They're right behind me. Okay.
I'll just get these ones because I know where they're at.
He's looking for uncircumcised Rephaim. So he's looking for giants that were made from the fallen angels. So Anunnakis came down, banged fucking some primitive worker people, and made these giants called the Rephaim. Now, they, like us, had this penis sheath. All the other side, they circumcised all the fucking males throughout their whole kingdom so they wouldn't be able to tell them apart from the other Anunnaki. That's who they're trying to be like, the Anunnaki gods, right? So the Rephaim, same as the smaller selves, because we are the smaller selves. So not Nephilim, Rephaim, they're all the same size. The Rephaim was actually bigger than their daddies, the Nephilim and shit. So he calls all throughout the whole fucking world, calling all my giants back, all my fucking fallen angels' kids, the children of the rocket ship, come back. We're gonna have this big war against these fucking cock choppers over here, right? They're pissed. I mean, this is the thing. They're not playing. Okay. So, and the word went forth to every outpost of giants, and they came, the six-fingered, red-haired giants, right? From all over Britain, all over the United States, right? Hold on. The mound builders, we call them mound builders now. The mountain builders from North America, right? And South America, probably. The heavy weapon makers from the cold lands, the Nordic giants, the ice giants, the ones that goddamn had
fucking Odin and Vikings
axes.
and shit.
Well, those were the Anunnaki, but they're the ones that had those big 150-pound axes, as big as men, right? We know these in our history. We have the writings and some of the weapons from these fucking creatures, right? The dragon siblings from the east, the giant fucking Asian motherfuckers, right? Who could have those been? Those could still be Cain's people, even Cain's giants that came to this fucking battle, dude. And the 20,000 giants that came with them. So each one of those giants would bring 20,000 of their people with them. Now, that number might be exaggerated because maybe I only got 18,700, but yo, my Uncle John over there, he's got the other 2,000-3,000 for me, you know what I'm saying? So it evens out. At the end, there's still 100,000 giants. It don't matter. I'm a little weaker because of my numbers, you know what I'm saying? Don't worry, because we got
all come together.
Don't worry, we got dark ones coming. So I want you to realize that. All these giants from every nation we're talking about. We're talking about the Nordic giants, the fucking Asian, whether you call it, they say the dragon siblings. So that means China, bro. That's China, dragons. And we got the 6-fingered, red-haired giants from all over Britain, all over, Europe area that we know about. And then we got the mountain builders that we know about North America, the mountain builders. I mean, all these motherfuckers come together for a war. And what happens? Ooh, you're done with this?
Representing every colony, color, and creed in the known world. Then King Og anointed his 7 braids and beard with oil. He stood before 100,000 of them, all in the high place of Baal of the earth, and looking over his warriors and kingdom, he screamed with a voice that all Rephaim heard. For Baal of the earth and for the loss of the Moonchild, we go to war.
Okay, so Baal of the earth, so he anointed his beard. Whenever you hear them saying, I'm anointed with oil, remember, that's the fucking holy anointing oil. 9 pounds of cannabis, fucking 20 gallons of fucking olive oil. You know what I'm saying? I wish someone else was here to tell this whole recipe. It's a whole big recipe. They would take this shit, anoint themselves with it, bro. What do you think 9 pounds of cannabis will make you do? Now, mind you, don't even worry about all the other shit that was in this damn oil. 9 pounds of cannabis is gonna make you trip balls, baby. They're getting ready for war. They're tripping on, baby. Oh, this is great.
And when the moon was full next, war broke out between Og's and Nimrod's kingdoms. Og and his giants fought against the circumcised and Nimrod fought back. The Rephaim were driven on by the death of the Moonchild, and their hatred of circumcision hardened their resolve. These are the Rephaim of significant stature that fought with King Og on the field of battle of the 100,000 giant war. Anak, the keeper of the bodies before Baal. Anak, whose dark ones shrouded over him with unspeakable darkness. Anak, who spoke the incantation to raise the dead. Anak, who worshipped Mot in secret. Anak, the transcriber of the first chapters of this very book. Anak, who cut himself and shaved the front of his head. Anak, who stood between Og and Nimrod and was then cut down by the circumcised. Anak, who wounded Nimrod's genitals a 2nd time. Azath, the temple priest for Baal of the
Did you guys get all that, though? That dude is pretty good. Like, did you hear what he did? What was the most craziest thing you heard about that guy?
Well, I would have to say that he stand between the two. He stood between Og and Nimrod.
No, of course, because he was on the battlefield. But this dude resurrected the dead.
Oh, yes.
He had a dead army. A dead army came with him. Not only, he had a fucking shit ton of dark ones. Those are demons. The dark ones are demons just waiting to get up in a body and go crazy up on a motherfucker. So he resurrected the dead. He brought a dead army with his ass. Now, the circumcised chopped his ass to pieces. And that was the only way to kill these motherfuckers. They had to dismember them and shit.
Azath, the temple priest for Baal of the moon. Azath, with blackened eyes, who rode a great beast into battle. Azath, the priest who was the creator of the driver and chaser. Azath, who weaved the bones of smaller selves into his beard.
Wow.
Azath, who ate the unnatural creeping things that did not have fins or scales, and the beasts that chew the cud, but did not have cloven hooves.
Oh, wow.
Let me read that again. Azath, who ate the unnatural creeping things that did not have fins or scales, and the beasts that chew the cud, but did not have cloven hooves. Azath, whose dark ones moved objects around him. Azath, whose potions and spells protected the Rephaim on the field of battle. Azath's army was 1,000 giants.
So there again, you got this dude didn't have 20,000. He only had 1,000 giants with him. He had tons of dark ones that were super magical. He was a giant wizard. He had telekinesis, his dark ones, his demons that they commanded. Now they didn't command shit. The demons rolled with them freely because they were like, yo, we can fuck some shit up. Let's go ride with this motherfucker real quick. And that's exactly what they did. They faked loyalty. Now you heard it. The first thing you heard is his dark ones controlled objects around him and moved them. So he basically had this motherfucking force field of goddamn rocks and boulders and people and shit. He could make everything fly around him. He had potions, incantations. He was the wizard. Like, basically, you're fucking medic up, corpsman up. And he'd run up and let me fix you real quick. Let me help you with this spell. Oh, over here. Hold on. Let me get my dark ones. Ah! Like, he's over there, like, fucking, like, doing Jedi powers and shit. That dude's pretty badass.
Malcolm, the cannibal.
Oh, shit. Here's a cannibal.
Malcolm the cannibal, who had eaten the dead who were tied to trees where the dark ones gather. Malcolm, the treasurer in the house of Ball of the Moon. Abominable Malcolm, who showed partiality and took the bribes that blind the eyes of the wise and twist the words of the honorable.
Abominable. You hear that right there, right? See, he was like a Bigfoot dude. He ate the dead things, that the dead people that got tied to trees. Remember, they got cursed, got tied to trees because they're blasphemers. He came and ate those motherfuckers after they died.
Malcolm, who at times was possessed by dark ones that threw him into the water or the fire, trying to kill him.
Wow.
Malcolm, who sang praises to Ball of the Moon as he was surrounded by circumcised Nephilim and run through. Malcolm's army was 1,000 giants. Og, who was Og's brother and who died in the first moments of battle. Og, A-G instead of O-G, in case you're not hearing the pronunciation.
Og and Og.
Og, who had no connection or any interest in a connection to any spiritual things whatsoever. Og, who followed not the customs of Og's land. Og, who spared his firstborn from Baal's fire. Og, who swung nets for fish and swung nets on the field of battle. Og, who was stunned by stones and then pierced by spears and hacked with axes until he died.
Yep.
Og's army was 5,000 giants.
So Og came in with just a net. He was basically like Jesus. He's like, I'm here for peace. Well, I'll throw a net at you guys. And they were like, fuck you. Well, they chopped him to pieces, man. They were like, you ain't got nothing for us. He was more of like, he was like a hippie. He's like a hippie, and he came to war with a net.
He didn't
Pacifist.
do any of the spiritual shit. Nope. He caught his fish. He was peaceful, pacifist. I don't want to do this war thing, but if I gotta, I gotta. Here we go.
It's the blood tie. You have to come to the call.
Yeah,
you have to.
He had to, and
like,
he was the first one cut down because that motherfucker was not a fighter.
The first few moments, the pacifists get cut down. You know, you can't throw fish at a motherfucking crowd of goddamn swords.
It did not work out for him.
They get cut up. You know what I mean?
Chat's got some questions for you.
Oh.
Tarshan, who hunted in the great waters and tamed Leviathan. Tarshan, blood servant and warden of the blood pits of Baal of the earth. Tarshan, who killed the circumcised Nephilim on the field of battle by crushing skulls with hammers. Tarshan, who plundered Nimrod's stores and took all of his smaller selves and livestock. Tarshan, whose face had been scarred by a mighty beast. Tarshan, who used the dark ones to read the minds and hearts of others. Tarshan's army was 500 giants. 500 giants. 500 giants.
So Tarshan's got a good history to him. He fought some kind of huge fucking monster that scarred his face all up. He's using his dark ones to read people's fucking minds and
hunted the great waters and tamed Leviathan.
Oh, he's the one who tamed the Leviathan.
Tamed the Leviathan.
Not killed.
That speaks volumes in itself.
Not slayed. Tamed. Okay, tamed. It means it's his little pet. Okay, we know about this guy. Actually, we've heard the stories of Jonah, right? Taming fucking animals and shit, getting swallowed up by creatures and spit back out. That dude's pretty fucking interesting. And I guarantee you follow that dude back, you're going to find like a biblical motherfucker, man. Like a cool ass motherfucker.
I think a lot of these guys turn into biblical beings that we never perceived as giants.
As giants.
It was never contexted into the Bible as that they were giants. I mean, really, at all.
One of these dudes, I guarantee you, who we know is Hercules. One of them has to be. One of them, you know what I'm saying? It's just crazy that these guys are the men of old, the men of renown. And we give them these weird names like Samuel and Jacob.
Gurion.
Gurion.
Gurion the Heavy, whose fourth and final battle was the 100,000 Giant War. Each war Gurion fought had torn his face so severely that he'd had 3 different faces.
Oh.
Gurion, who was oppressed by his Dark Ones and had been rendered mute. Gurion, who served Mott in the open. Gurion, who was stubborn, rebellious, a glutton, and a drunkard. Gurion, who continued to swing the driver and chaser mightily after his head had been severed in battle. Gurion's army was 500 giants.
Okay, so Gurion, Mott is the devil. Mott is, who I know you might say, that's not the devil. What are you talking about? There's, in their days, they had Ball of the Sky, Enlil, Ball or Ra, you know what I mean? Ball of the Earth, which would be Enki. Ball of the Moon, who the fucking knows? That could be Marduk, because it's Marduk is there and the fucking Mars. Ball of the Inner Earth, like Ball of the Underworld, that's Mott, right? That's Moloch Baal or Mott, the devil, whoever's in charge of the underworld and who they pray to. Like they consider it to be a god that sits on a throne down there. And I told you it was Ishkur Kegel or whatever her name was, and big old titty, big old titties whipping motherfuckers and shit, you know. And then the underworld was ruled by these fallen angels. God called them demons, you know. Enlil, if you read it, Enlil called them demons and put them in places on the earth. When really they agreed and said, "You guys can go live there. We won't kill you. We'll let you live there." Why would you let what you're calling a demon live on this planet if you love this planet? Just kick him the fuck off. Tell him to go home. Your job's done here. You are our workers, you know. So when he's saying he worshipped, literally out in the open, worshipped the rulers of the underworld where you're supposed to go when you die, not hell. And he was a glutton and a fucking drunkard. I mean, he was real fat and he was drunkard. That's why he called whoever the heavy.
Gurion the Heavy.
The heavy. He was a fat slob and he worshipped the devil. Worshipped what you would consider to be the devil. I don't consider it to be the devil, but go ahead.
Athos, the climber who climbed the mountains until the air thinned cold as he searched for new lands. Athos, soothsayer for Baal of the stars and celestial bodies. Athos, who had foretold the circumcision of Nimrod and the 100,000 Giant War. Athos, who was strong and of good courage for Baal of the stars and celestial bodies, and was the one who Baal of the stars and celestial bodies possessed and never forsook. Athos, whose visage changed when the dark elves were upon him. I'm sorry, elves, dark ones.
I was like, ooh, well, that's interesting, isn't it?
Dark ones. I went into fucking Narnia or some shit.
His visage. What's his visage mean? Like his body?
Visage. His
what he looks like.
What he changed like. What his look was. What he looked like.
So I look like this, and then my dark ones, my demons come and possess me, and then it changed them.
Athos, whose visage changed when the dark ones were upon him. Athos, who made armor out of the bones of the Nephilim and great beasts of the old. Athos, who had the eyes of certain death. Athos's army was 500 giants.
So he made fucking armor out of, you know, Leviathan and shit, out of the beasts of old. Mm-hmm. So out of probably dragons,
Nephilim and the beasts of old. So.
And the Nephilim people. Mm-hmm. He was like think about how tall he's got to be. The Nephilim, remember, they were bigger than the Nephilim. So they were able to intertwine their bones in their beards and shit. And they're fucking with them. They're like, "How fuck you? Look at me. Look at you." It's like, what are you gonna do? I'm using your fucking brother's top of his skull to cover my nipple, bro. What's up? You know what I mean? Go ahead, dude.
Uval the Grey, father of Og's deceased wife Lesta. Uval was the commander of elephants and great-scaled beasts. Uval, who had fallen from the skies like lightning at the beginning. Uval, who conversed with the bright ones. Uval, whose heart broke when the moonchild was lost. Uval, who sacrificed to gods we did not know. Uval, who died in combat after killing many while under the control of the Dark Ones. Uval's army was 5,000 giants.
That dude's super interesting. They said that the people fell out of heaven like stars, like shooting stars, and fell to the earth. Well, if they were ships, their ships crash landed on this planet. So all the other ones landed peacefully. He lost control of his ship and crashed straight on the ground. Son of a bitch. He prayed to gods that none of them even knew. None of the other Rephaim knew who the fuck he was praying to ever. What was the other interesting thing? He had something else interesting too.
Let's see here. Uval, who had fallen from the skies at the beginning, who conversed with the bright ones.
So he talked to the bright ones, which means he talked to the Anunnaki, which were none of these people were talking about the Anunnaki yet. The bright ones are the Anunnaki. Go ahead.
And he was the father of Lesta, the last female giant.
Oh,
which is why he would mourn
the Moonchild.
Mourn the Moonchild so much, because he was the father of the mother of the Moonchild.
Yes, yes. So he was basically one of the OGs from the beginning. That's what I knew. He was important. He's super important.
Arkrut, the Rephaim who sharpened his fingernails. Arkrut, who connected to a floating beast for battle. Arkrut, who, when connected, became as a lion. Arkrut, whose floating beast tore at the groins of the circumcised Nephilim. Arkrut, who wore the skins and faces of the many Nephilim he'd killed. Arkrut, servant of Baal of the stars and celestial bodies. Arkrut, whose arrows were drunk with blood, and whose sword longed to devour flesh. Arkrut, whose braided beard grew past his knees. Arkrut's army was 500 giants.
Cool. So let's go back to the last dude real quick. I forgot one of the other cool things about the last dude was he was in control and in charge of the elephants and the scaled beasts. So basically, when he came with his fucking armies, he came with elephants and dinosaurs, bitch. What's up? I'm here to war. Got my giants and got my dark ones.
You got T-Rex running right behind them.
And don't think, oh wow, they all had dark ones. They were all bad. They all had dark ones, both sides. You're gonna hear they turn on each other, start chopping each other's dicks off, man.
See, they say dark ones. I don't.
They're earth spirits.
Exactly. They say dark ones because
they were dark. They were a black smoke is how they described them. Black smoke, not as in dark demonized.
No, exactly. They were not evil, but they were
spirits
of the earth that have always been here and always been around this planet before the Anunnaki got here, before they invented and created us.
Yeah.
So, these dark ones are, your tree spirits, your
earth spirits.
I can't think of any right
wind,
now.
Water,
fire,
rocks,
elements,
trees,
everything.
ice, farts, everything. No, for real, everything. They were dark ones. They described them as being
the evil wind.
A dark, shadowy smoke figure, and it could what do they call it? It could possess.
Mm-hmm. It's possessed
any creature or being. Right, anything of this earth that's flesh. They could possess it. So these motherfuckers would attach because some were cool, some were not cool. Some lusted, some were like, oh look at you, man, you want to fuck that bitch? Oh, let me get in you real quick. I'll really fuck her. I'm telling you, this shit went down like this. They was inviting these things in. They would strap them dudes up with your straight armor. They would get all these dark ones inside of them and go kill. It's going to come. Watch.
Noth, spelt P-N-O-T-H. Noth, the black Rephaim from the hot lands of elsewhere. Noth, who, like Yuval, conversed with the bright ones. Noth, who sacrificed to gods we did not know. Noth, who also spoke the incantation to raise the dead. Noth, who had opened his soul to the dark ones completely, and whose eyes were darkened because of it.
Wow.
Noth, who heaped disasters upon the circumcised Nephilim and dashed their skulls upon the stones in the field. Noth, who had the eyes of certain death. Noth's army was 1,000 giants. So the eyes of certain death I'm seeing, and whose eyes are darkened. I'm just envisioning in movies when people are
he's a demon
possessed and they have all black, black. That's when you open yourself up fully, and they
Yep.
have completely engulfed you, and that never left him.
Yeah. And he was the first black giant that they described. They said that was the first one that they described that was a different color than the previous colors
True.
that they were saying.
True. And he also brought back the dead too, raised the dead.
And he brought back that. And I forgot to go elaborate on the last dude that was so fabulous, but I went on more about cool other shit. But they're dark ones. Their dark ones are super duper dope.
Yugthoth, the black Rephaim from the hot lands of elsewhere. Yugthoth was driven by the dark ones that visibly rested upon his shoulders. Yugthoth, who could call down fire from heaven from Ball of the Sun.
Wow.
Yugthoth, who took off his sandals to question Ball of the Sun and was not struck dead.
Wow.
Yugthoth.
Grounded to earth.
Yugthoth, whose hair was thick and looked as ropes do. Yugthoth, who killed 50 circumcised Nephilim with the skull of a great beast before he died.
Wow.
Yugthoth, who had the eyes of certain death. Yugthoth's army was 1,000 giants.
Wow. So here's a black dude coming from Africa, probably.
The hot lands of elsewhere.
The hot lands of elsewhere. So this tells you. So I love this shit. This tells you they're not in Africa fighting this fucking battle.
Mm-hmm.
They're somewhere else, and they're talking about the hot lands of elsewhere. Now, I could be just a white man and stupid. Maybe this giant's from Africa. I'm talking about Australia. Maybe they are on Africa fighting this war, and the hot lands of elsewhere are Australia. Who knows? But this dude's black as shit. He's probably from Africa. And then I really think they fought this war in Australia. A lot of people think that this war was probably fought on America or something, but I don't think they would come and fuck this place up in that time. And they didn't know, really. Place was covered in ice. They fought on a land mass. So that land mass could have been the island of Mu, where in between both places, or Australia, right there in that spot. But anyway, big black motherfucker, right? He comes, he's so possessed by damn demons, they just hang out on his shoulders because they are him, and his eyes are black. So he comes as a demon.
And he has the power of the sun.
Oh, and he's connected to Marduk.
He questioned him without being stricken dead.
Yeah. So he's like real connected. Now, if you ask me, this is probably Marduk's son that comes to this motherfucking battle, dude. And he's so fucking possessed and shit because he can go, hey, Dad, shoot me down some motherfucking meteorites real quick. And all they got to do is lasso some up and throw them down and boom, 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 right? And then he took his sandals off and grounded himself to the ground. So when he did get smited, all that electricity just passed right through him and went to the ground, and he wasn't killed. It says it. That's cool shit.
Argu, the footbreaker, whose white hair shone under the ball of the sun. Argu, who fought mightily with the driver and chaser and crippled many. Argu, who had to be chained to a stone pillar when under the power of the Dark Ones because of his terrible strength. Argu, who prophesied Og's victory in the 100,000 Giant War. Argu, who left nothing undone of all that the Dark Ones commanded of him. Argu's army was 500 giants.
So this is the first dude that they were really scared of. Because after it was the done deal, they had to chain him to a fucking pillar because he was way too strong.
When he was possessed, he was too strong. Once
he had done the deal, they had to chain him up because they were like, this dude's too much. We're afraid of him.
Vetus, whose arms swung violently and who wrapped his fists in chains. Vetus, who fasted and prayed before Ball of the Moon with Og during the death watch of the Moonchild. Vetus, whose dark ones would enter his enemy and then return to tell him what the enemy was planning.
Ooh.
Vetus, who'd eaten 200 smaller selves in one sitting. Vetus, who took violent means to follow Ball of the Moon, brutally walking in all his ways. Vetus, who had the eyes of certain death. Vetus's army was 500 giants.
Dude's cool.
Briareos, the strong giant, who worked in the fields and harvested. Briareos, worshipper of Baal of the earth and a recipient of Baal's blessings. Briareos, who commanded many dark ones to enter the circumcised Nephilim armies and confuse their ways. Briareos, who dug a tunnel into Nimrod's kingdom. Briareos, who built an incredible altar to Baal of the earth that was a witness between him and the dark ones, so that none in Og's kingdom could say, "We have no part in Baal of the earth." Briareos' army was 3,000 giants.
Nice. So Baal of the earth followed Enki. Straight up. He was praying worship to Enki. So it's somewhere it's Enki's descendant, guarantee it. That's a representative. You got here when they're coming in and they're like, yo, we follow this god. It's representative of a giant from a race of people, but also following a fucking certain god. Like I'm representing, here's my pillar saying, yo, we're here for you, Enki. We got your back in this motherfucker, bro. We're here. Yo, this is amazing.
Kotos, the black Rephaim from the hot
Kudos.
lands of elsewhere. Kotos, who strikes pulverized boulders and who pounded his fist inside and through his enemies.
Wow. Straight through a motherfucker.
Kotos, worshipper of gods we did not know. Kotos, who had torn 20 circumcised Nephilim apart with his bare hands.
That dude's from Rome, from Italy. Kutos. That's one of those names. Get it?
Kotos.
Greece.
Kotos, a violent giant whose fury none could reason with. Kotos, who put a trumpet in the hand of every giant in his army. Kotos, who said, "When I blow the beast's horn, then you blow the trumpets on every side of the camp. Then scream, 'The battle belongs to Og.'" In doing so, the Nephilim were confused by the horn blasts and yelling. And the Nephilim greatly feared Kotos and his army. Kotos, who had the eyes of certain death. Kotos' army was 2,000 giants.
Cool.
He's a strong guy.
Yeah. He came with frequency. That's what he was saying. He would use frequency, sound, what do they call that? Sonic resonance, sonic fucking warfare. He used sound fucking warfare on their asses.
I'm not sure how to pronounce this one quite yet. Gyges. I'm going to say Gyges.
God.
Gyges of curved limbs.
The gigawatts.
Gyges, who had been buried from the neck down to straighten his curved limbs at childhood. Gyges, builder of the high places and secret worshiper of Mot. Gyges, who lived with the lepers. Gyges, who was protected by dark ones that circled him in black flames. Gyges, who conjured and sent a powerful dark one of ill will into the Nephilim camp.
Wow.
Gyges, who had the eyes of certain death. Gyges, who was captured and straightened till he died by the circumcised Nephilim. Gyges' army was 2,000 giants.
Wow. Can we read that one more time? So remember, the lepers, they got you all fucked up, dude. They had me fucked up for a while too. But then when I started thinking about it, I'm like, damn, that's right. That was burnt face. They were burnt. They were red, right? So the lepers are the white people. They're actually albino black people. Lepers are albino black people. So white people come from these albino black people, but also you hear all these giants are white, glow, right? Y'all motherfuckers come from giants too, you red-haired motherfuckers, blonde-haired motherfuckers. All right, check this shit out. Can we read that one more time? Because he's a wizard among the white people with his dark ones look like black flames. Holy shit, this is wow.
Gyges of curved limbs. Gyges, who had been buried from the neck down to straighten his curved limbs at childhood. Gyges, builder of the high places and secret worshiper of Mot.
So he's devil worshiping. He was born crippled, born put underground so his limbs would go straight. Devil worshiping. He's a builder of high places, means he's building up on top of mountains.
Gyges, who lived with the lepers.
Live with white people.
Gyges, who was protected by dark ones that circled him in black flames.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Gygas, who conjured and sent a powerful dark one of ill will into the Nephilim camp. Gygas, who had the eyes of certain death. Gygas, who was captured and straightened until he died by the circumcised Nephilim.
So he was stretched
because
out.
He was crooked.
He was stretched out. They ripped him apart. So eyes of certain death is when people go, oh, that dude looks like he killed somebody. Or they look like, oh, man, he's got the eyes of a murderer. That's what they're talking about. Eyes of certain death. Like, I'm going to kill you.
Gygas's army was 2,000 giants.
That dude's crazy, man. That's like your white, living with the white people, the lepers of the white people, okay? The not even white. They're the albino black people. From black people. The lepers were albino black people. So he was the grand wizard of these white people, the albinos. Interesting.
Talo, the simple giant. Talo, who had had his head wounded as a child. Talo, whose forehead was as a wall, but whose skull was sunken.
Wow.
Talo, who opened himself completely to the Dark Ones and was rarely in control of himself. Talo, who spoke to all with the mind and voice of a Dark One and served a ball of the earth. Talo, who allowed no razor come to his head or face. Talo's army was 425 giants.
So it sounds like this dude, he had a wall for a forehead.
And then sunken.
And then no brain. Got you no brain.
He was sunken in.
And
which is why he had them all just take control of him.
Yeah, the Dark Ones to control him. So when you talk to him, it's a straight dark one.
All dark.
It's
his voice and everything. He was a puppet.
Yep. No soul in that dude. No brain left. So it was easy to just get in there and be him. That's insane. So there was just like a demon, a dark one just walking around, being motherfuckers, making kids. Like, did he pass his seed or the giant seed? Like, that's what's up. What the hell?
Raka, the empty head. Raka, whose dark ones completely controlled him. Raka, who was unpredictable with axe, driver and chaser, and stones.
See, if they were empty in their head, if they had no brain, if they were just gone, you're easily possessed.
Raka, who was killed on the field of battle by Nimrod's guard. Raka, whose eyes whitened as the eyes of the blind and spoke with the voice of a dark one. Raka, whose dark ones changed his form, so he became a different giant. Raka, who had the eyes of certain death. Raka's army was 425 giants.
So they were just transforming. This guy could transform into a different giant. Now, the other one never said what form he could take. Now, we do have legends of these giants transforming into fucking bears, don't we? Imagine that. Fucking goddamn transform into a fucking bear the size of a mountain. They have legends of that too.
Amok, who commanded the Dark Ones. Amok, who could say, go and wound that giant. And then the Dark Ones would go and wound him.
Oh, that's not fucking fair.
Amok, who commanded the Dark Ones from the high places as Og stretched his arms over the field of battle.
Wow.
Amok, who said, Ball of the earth has great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices. Behold, to open yourself up to the Dark Ones is greater than sacrifice. To be connected to a Dark One is better than the fat of lambs. For your witchcraft, iniquity, and idolatry please your God, Ball of the earth. Amok's army was 1,000 giants.
It's insane, man.
So he was the Earth Witch, he commanded the Dark Ones. He was
on top of a mountain, like he had long distance reach on them motherfuckers.
The last line there this is his words. For your witchcraft, iniquity, and idolatry please your God, Ball of the earth. So he's saying, do that pagan shit, baby.
Yeah, because it makes him happy. Now, you might argue, is Ball of the Earth Enki or is Ball of the Earth who's inside the earth? Well, when they say Mot or Moloch Ball, that's who is inside the earth. Like who you think of in hell or the devil or Lucifer or something like that. Like that's who they're talking about. Like who's their God in charge of them. And their leadership is in what you Christians call the gates of Hades. Their leadership is inside there. There's 7 gates. Jesus went through that shit. Enoch came and got him out. Did and shit. All right, maybe that's next.
Varrock, the perfect, whose visage was beautiful and who received favor throughout the kingdom because of his pleasant appearance. Varrock, servant of Baal of the sun. Varrock, who raided Nimrod's castle and rushed on the spoil and took sheep, oxen, and cattle, and slaughtered them on the ground, and with his army ate them in stores, blood bones and all.
Blood bones and all, baby. They were giants.
Varrock, who could call rocks and boulders to fall from the sky from Baal of the sun.
Wow.
Varrock, whose flowing flaxen hair became the easy target of the Nephilim, and he was severed in half after many wounds by a greater circumcised Nephilim.
Oh my God.
Varrock, who had the eyes of certain death. Varrock's army was 500 giants.
So he was kind of small, because you said there was a greater Nephilim that killed him. The Nephilims are their dads and shit. They're not their dads, but there was some good Nephilim and shit. Some of the good Giggies. Remember, there was Giggies mining in the ground. There was Giggies in the sky. The ones that were on the ground fought with the humans because they didn't make people. The Nephilim that were in the mines, they didn't mate with the people on the ground. Only the ones that came from the top. Okay? So, this is just fucking amazing, man. We got this dude over here doing this, these people over here doing that, and we getting chopped up to pieces and shit. So his flowing hair became a weapon. But can you believe these dudes can call rocks meteorites, bro? Shut-ah! Let's go to war, bitch.
Idigan, the possessed. Idigan, whose dark ones would seize him and change his shape. Idigan, who spoke unintelligibly because of the dark ones in him.
Wow.
Idigan, whose 7 braids had never been trimmed or cut. Idigan, servant of Mot. Idigan, who when the battle became intense and he was severely wounded by the archers, asked his army to run him through with his sword, screaming, "Lest these circumcised giants come to torture and abuse me." Idigan's army was 2,000 giants.
So he still wanted warrior's death, but he wanted his own people to kill him and not the other motherfucking enemy to get him.
He didn't want to be captured.
Because he was a servant of their God, right? So he was basically Jesus to them.
Merihim, who had an extra arm growing from his chest that was useless. Merihim, who practiced the dark witchcraft of Baal of the earth that could change the species of any living beast.
Holy shit.
Merihim, who foretold the coming of the great waters. Merihim, of whom the dark ones moved around and through, so much so that he appeared as within a plague of locusts. Merihim, who cut his hair at the end of every 5 years because it was heavy and a burden upon him.
Wow.
Merihim, who had the eyes of certain death. Merihim's army was 2,000 giants.
So imagine if we've been looking at some shit wrong. Imagine if we find a rock that looks like it's layer. We're looking at it incorrectly. What if it's one of these giants fucking braids that's been petrified and it looks like layers of rock? Like, I never thought about that. These motherfuckers are cutting their hairs like their hair would be as big as these trees.
Possible. Indeed.
Wow, that dude's pretty wild too.
Ubskust, whose skin and limbs were white as snow because he was a leper.
White as snow, leper, see? Yes. More proof.
Ubskust, whose hair had turned white on his sores, and the sores were deeper in the skin of him. Ubskust, who worshipped Mot in secret. Ubskust, who with his fellow lepers beat the drums at the times of infant sacrifices to Baal of the earth. Ubskust, who lived among the lepers near the trees where the dead are tied and the dark ones gather. Ubskust, who had the eyes of certain death. Ubskust's army was 1,000 leprous and diseased giants.
Wow! 1,000 leprous and diseased giants. Now, earlier, if you guys were just in the TwizTD RootZ channel, you heard from God what a leper is, okay? We already knew this was coming here, right? I know this story. And so the lepers are white people. Now you might say, well, how are they diseased? That was what they called them. They were a disease to their genetic line. That was black people, right? So if I'm a white dude standing naked in Africa, I am going to burn. My skin is going to die. I'm going to get boils and blisters all over me. I'm not going to be able to hide. I'm not going to have medicine to put on. Every single fucking day, I'm going to burn more and more. Those burns are going to become sores. The skin will be dead. Imagine what those fucking people look like. Literally, the walking fucking dead and diseased. Because all that shit's pus and... Dude, it's so like...
It's like third-degree burns that gets
day.
infected.
Every day.
Basically, like, what would you look like if you could not treat your sunburn that is almost a third-degree burn every day?
Every day.
You would look like a leper.
He's walking around with a whole 1,000 people of diseased, decrepit skin, leather-faced motherfucking white people, bro. Albino black people. This is crazy.
Skabar, the uninformed and stupid. Skabar, who spoke lies of the dark ones and the bright ones. Skabar, who spent inordinate amounts of time grooming his beard. Skabar, who was beaten almost to death in the flatlands by his own Rephaim army.
Wow.
Skabar, who was spared from betrayal and death from the hands of his army by Enoch, the keeper of the bodies before Baal. Skabar, the uninformed and stupid, who died delicately after one slap across the face from a circumcised Nephilim. Skabar, the confused, who lied with all of his breath, for there were many that hated him, and they hated him with cruel hatred. Skabar, whose corpse was circumcised on the field of battle by the Nephilim. Skabar's army, who wanted to kill him, was 50 giants.
Wow. This dude, straight up,
Wow.
he got beat so bad by his own army that all he had to do, he was spared from death by the keeper of the souls. So basically, it would be like the dude from the underworld before you go see God. You know what I'm saying? I forget his motherfucking name, but this dude was so fucked up. All he did was walk on the field and got bitch slapped and got killed.
Done.
And then the giant went down, grabbed his fucking cock and water slinky that bitch and chopped off his foreskin and circumcised him right there for a fucking
And I
disgrace.
bet you his 50 giants were like, hell yeah! Okay, now let's go fight.
They were like, hey, man, that's cool. Thanks. We didn't like you anyways. Peace out, motherfucker. You know, because some of these, they didn't say they all got chopped down. Not they went somewhere, right? But what's coming next? Oh, shit.
Oriax, who had stared at the sun for revelation from Baal until he was blinded.
Wow.
Oriax with long black hair, who Baal of the Sun spoke directly to. Blind Oriax, who was carried into battle and commanded his army from his chase. Oriax, who did call down fire from Baal of the Sun upon the circumcised Nephilim on the field of battle.
Wow.
Oriax, who called upon Baal of the Sun as his rock, fortress, and deliverer. Oriax, who spoke of Baal of the Sun as his horn, stronghold, and refuge, who trains him to deliver violence. Oriax, who worshipped both Baal of the Sun and Baal of the Moon, and opened himself to conflicted dark ones. Oriax, who had the eyes of certain death. Oriax's army was 500 giants.
Dude, there's another dude that can call up Marduk and be like, yo, Marduk, send me some fucking asteroids. This is insane, bro. This is literally crazy. These dudes are calling asteroids down on motherfuckers.
Oya, the black Rephaim.
And he was white. Sorry.
Yes.
White with probably blue eyes, because you can't, as a white person, this is why I'm going blind, you can't stare at the sun. When they tell you to sun gaze when you're a white person, don't fucking do it. Don't listen to them. That's for black people only. Trust me.
Oya, the black Rephaim from the hot lands of elsewhere. Oya, the bread maker and worshiper of gods we do not know. Oya, whose dark ones could transport his spirit into another living creature. Oya, who attacked the Nephilim on the field of battle with his transportation. Oya, who raided the circumcised Nephilim temples and ate the fat of their sacrifices and drank the blood of their drink offerings. Oya, who was as dangerous and ferocious as he was strong. Oya the fast, who had no use of weapons on the field of battle,
Rip people apart.
and used his hands to twist thwart and break the circumcised Nephilim. Oya, whose vengeance on the Nephilim was as grapes of gall on bitter clusters served with wine that was a cruel poison. Oya, who had the eyes of certain death. Oya's army was 500 giants.
This dude was that was Hercules.
Could have been twisting and just.
That's straight up Hercules, bro. Like,
he was a black Rephaim from the hot lands of elsewhere.
He was a monster. He was a fucking monster dude that ripped people apart. Hercules.
And he transported into other beings, which is how he went into the battle. His consciousness was transported into something else as he rode into battle. That's what the Dark Ones did for him. So he could have just been a lion into battle, just getting in there and fucking biting heads off and shit. I don't know, or biting dicks off at this point.
Yeah. Dude, imagine just being a fly on the fucking wall for this, bro. The most amazingest story ever not told is this.
And this whole chapter, by the way, is all of just your main giant commanders. This is just who they are.
This ain't even the war yet.
Yeah, that's chapter 4. Okay, these are your leaders of your armies. These are your leaders of your armies that they're describing now.
It briefly says how they did in battle, how they fared.
Yeah.
Just wait till you hear it in detail, though.
Farmz, the hairy blood drinker.
So he was fully
Bigfoot.
covered in hair.
He was Bigfoot.
And he's a blood drinker. What do we know about Bigfoot?
Farmz, who wounded his enemies and saved their blood in clay pots. Farmz, worshiper of Baal of the earth. Farmz, who swung a dead circumcised Nephilim as a club on the field of battle.
What do we know about Bigfoot? Using people as weapons and shit.
Farmz, who was told of his early death by the smaller self sorceresses.
Ooh.
Farmz, who then turned his forehead to the stone and sacrificed 300 smaller selves of Baal of the earth, and was granted 100 more years of life.
Wow.
Farmz, who said to the Nephilim, "Why are you circumcised, giants, fearful, O you of little faith in Baal of the earth?" Farmz, who then arose and rebuked the circumcised Nephilim. And the ground opened and swallowed many, and he kept his calm.
Yep.
Farmz, who had the eyes of certain death. Farmz's army was 500 giants.
So there you see a Bigfoot type, hairy covered man, giant motherfucker comes up to battle. He was really peaceful, kind of. He worshiped Baal of the earth. All the other guys were like, "Hey, what are you doing here? You don't fucking worship Baal of the earth." He's like, "You don't think so? Watch how I do." And the earth opened up and swallowed him because Baal of the earth was like, "Yeah, that's my homie right there. Don't fuck with him." And he didn't have to do shit, but he would take a motherfucking person and swing a person around, beat the shit out of everyone else with another person.
See, he was also a peaceful pacifist. He didn't get slapped in one thing. He didn't toss nuts out, but he did take a motherfucker and swing his ass.
I'm gonna fuck you up.
It worked for him.
This was an earth creature giant, like a fucking hair covered motherfucker.
Okay.
That's good shit. Now, one thing I forgot, we really forgot to elaborate on the one dude that floated to battle on a fucking sea monster, dude. What the fuck?
Oh yeah, he the one that attached himself to something.
Yeah, and it would rip all the people apart because it was a sea monster. And that important comes later. You're like, well, I thought they were on a landmass. Well, there's something about to come that the whole place is about to be full of water, motherfucker. So a sea monster is about to eat everybody.
Enceladus, the wealthy, strong potion maker and servant of Baal of the moon.
Ooh.
Enceladus, whose dark ones of rage overtook him when he was drunk.
Oh, shit.
Enceladus, whose potions could chain a dark one in servitude to a Rephaim.
Oh.
Enceladus, whose potions caused the drinker to see the future of tomorrow.
Oh, damn.
Enceladus, whose potions saved the Rephaim that ate the sour meat of the circumcised Nephilim as cooked by Stolas. Enceladus, who, when not drinking wine, ate sacrificial meat and hated his wise and understanding heart bitterly for no reason at all.
Wow.
Enceladus was the heaviest Rephaim on the field of battle. Enceladus, who drank a potion and prophesied the great waters. Enceladus, who was a drunkard and a glutton, and came to riches, and his drowsiness clothed him with gold. Enceladus's army was 2,000 giants. So he was the biggest one on the battlefield. He was even bigger than the other guy that was the heavy. So
he was huge.
Also a drunkard glutton.
Yeah, huge, covered in gold wizard. That's all you heard. It's wizards, potions.
Mm-hmm.
He was
the wealthy.
And his kind of name kind of says he was probably from a Greek area.
Yeah.
Like, Palladius or all those type of names, those are up there, up above Africa and everywhere else. You know what I'm saying? So when they say hotlands, that could still be a hotland, like fucking, Rome's hot. Italy's hot, motherfucker. Greece, that's a hot place. So it's hot for where I'm at. So that's pretty cool, man. This dude's like got all kinds of potions. He's worshiping the moon. Now, when you look at the Druids, right? He could have literally been a Druid. They're moon worshiping. You know what I'm saying? So let's go on some deeper shit.
Typhoeus, boiler of meats and breads.
Oh.
Typhoeus, who with Stolus fed the armies of King Og. Typhoeus, who shaved his head after breaking a vow to Baal of the moon.
Oh, damn it.
Typhoeus, of which none in all of Og's kingdom practiced wickedness like him.
Oh, damn.
Typhoeus, who never abstained from meat offered to Baal of the earth, moon, or sun. Typhoeus, who drank the blood and essence of things strangled and from things of spiritual connection from which you keep with yourselves.
Whoa.
Typhoeus, who ate the sacrificial blood, Typhoeus, who ate the sacrificial bread, and he ate the dainty sacrificial meats served to him with the evil eye. Typhoeus, who said, meats for the belly and the belly for meats, but I shall destroy both it and them. Typhoeus, whose wickedness caused the dark ones to attach to him, so that he always smoldered as the embers of a fire.
Wow.
Typhoeus, who had the eyes of certain death. Typhoeus's army was 500 giants. So he was just an evil motherfucker.
Dude, he was
literally eating everything and doing everything that they were told not to for all of the stuff.
Also, though, you hear exactly like these satanic rituals, these things that they talk about, like in detail right here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like this dude, if you track that guy, he probably has all kinds of books that he wrote, and motherfuckers started a whole cult under him, and probably is called the United States government, probably something like that. Like this is wow.
Yeah, that
guy's a real. He's
definitely not who you want cooking your meats and breads.
Yeah, he's
poisoning you in the kitchen.
You don't want to be on the bad side, but he was the cook. But that's he's the butcher. That's what it is. It's the butcher, the one that fucking cooking the meats. He can carve up a motherfucker. So he went to go work. Now, when they say the smaller self sorceresses or priestesses, those are witches. Those are straight witches. All the men got eaten. The women
or sacrificed.
Went into witchcraft. Yeah. They went into witchcraft. Now, when they talk about we took part on the sacrificial meat, don't get shit fucked up. They'll say when they raided Nimrod's storage and took smaller selves and lambs and shit, and they went and sacrificed them on the battlefield, right? When they say they took part in sacrificial meat, know that they're eating humans. They're sacrificing us. Go ahead.
Stolus, the stew maker, who spoke with the bright ones.
We're stew.
Stolus was the other one who poisoned King Og's army with Typhoeus. So, FYI. Stolus, the stew maker, who spoke with the bright ones. Stolus, whose eyes were blackened by all that was vulgar in the world. Stolus, who with Typhoeus fed the armies of King Og. Stolus, who when on the field of battle gave himself over to the dark ones. Stolas, who fed upon the dead Nephilim and cooked their sour bodies for Og's armies. Stolas, who would only sacrifice an uncircumcised male smaller self without blemish to Baal of the earth. Stolas, who could call large fecal worms up from the ground to wrap, enter, and consume his enemies from Baal of the earth.
Are they still down there?
Stolas, who had eaten the food served by the Bright Ones, having eaten their strange meat as a guest till his hand pushed the plate away. Stolas's army was 2,000 giants.
So he ate the meat from the Bright Ones, and the Bright Ones are the Anunnaki. Okay.
Madak of the shadows. Madak, who stayed away from his fellow Rephaim and lived in caves. Madak, who heard the distant cursed voices and obeyed their commands. Madak, who was surrounded in a cloud of dark ones that covered him in the haze of Baal of the earth, which filled his cave. Madak, whose prophecies were shunned, because they were never of good, but always of darkness. Madak, who covered himself in mud, and his hair was heavy with soil. Madak, whose dark ones put a filth upon all they touched, and made them vile, and set them as a gazing stock. Madak, who had the eyes of certain death. Madak's army was 500 giants.
Wow.
Ipos, tormented, inheritor of Baal's kingdom. Ipos, whose golden flesh was pronounced with great musculature. Ipos, whose beauty could summon the loins of giants who weren't homosexual.
Whoa, he's making people's dick hard.
Ipos, whose dark ones would lift him and place him where he requested. Ipos, whose
He's teleport.
Ipos, whose flesh had touched any and all unclean things to inherit the kingdom of Baal. Ipos, who conjured a lying dark one to confuse the ranks of the Nephilim. Ipos, who did indeed fornicate and was a lover of males. Ipos, who surrounded himself with male giants who loved him.
He was a boy lover. He can teleport. He can conjure other dark ones.
Ipos, whose behavior reminded the Rephaim of the unspoken mistake, so that he was disliked for it.
Ooh, the unspoken mistake, like boy loving. They needed more females.
Ipos, who was a fornicator, a mot idolater, effeminate, a thief, covetous, a drunkard, a reviler, a swindler, and was prophesied to inherit the kingdom of Baal. Ipos, who alone had the respect of King Og. Ipos, who had the eyes of certain death. Ipos's army was 500 giants. Interesting. Ipos, who alone had the respect of King Og. After all that, everybody thought he was shit except King Og.
He was prophesized to take over the kingdom of Baal. He was a boy lover. What is happening in our world? What if he had done it? Damn.
Balor, with black hair and one good eye. Balor, whose single eye perceived the weaknesses of his enemies.
It was his brown eye.
In battle, Balor was unstoppable.
Cyclops.
Balor, whose good eye was a blessing of Baal of the moon. Balor, who only spoke in dark sayings. Balor, whose incantation to Baal of the earth could move a mountain to the sea. Balor, who also said, "If I am indeed a servant of Baal of the sun, then let fire come down from on high and consume the Nephilim." And fire did come down and did consume 50 Nephilim. Balor, who prophesied of the coming great waters. Balor, whose single eye had no pity upon the Nephilim, for Nimrod's kingdom was Og's. Balor's army was 2,000 giants.
Wow. That's insane.
Hanrez, the hairy priest of Mot.
The hairy priest. Another hairy motherfucker.
Hanrez, who did not worship Mot in secret. Hanrez, who walked with Mot as a companion and visited his kingdom. Hanres, whose dark ones were such that he was as a whirlwind looks and as a whirlwind turns. Hanres, who swore thoughtlessly with his lips to only do evil.
So he looks like a tornado and walks like a tornado. God damn.
Hanres, who Mott told of the great waters. Hanres, whose method of destruction on the field of battle brought a fear to the uncircumcised. Hanres, who had the eyes of certain death. Hanres, whose comprehension of the dark ones was complete. Hanres' army was 2,000 giants.
I mean, literally, they're standing there and a fucking tornado is coming at them. And they have to fucking chop at it and shit and hopefully don't get sucked up by it.
Grab a limb.
Holy fuck.
Botis, father of Balor. Botis, whose wisdom was afforded by Baal of the moon. Botis, who spoke of the nature of things and saw all unseen truth. Botis, whose heavy beard rested over his shoulders. Botis, who created a strange fire that lifted up towards Baal of the sun regularly. Botis, who pronounced a curse upon the circumcised Nephilim in the name of Baal of the earth, and 42 untamable female bears entered the field of battle and mauled the Nephilim till they died.
Holy shit.
Botis, who was beheaded and cannibalized on the field of battle.
Damn, they ate his ass.
Botis's army was 5,000 giants.
And 42 fucking female bears that were pissed.
Big army, too. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yathat, keeper of the smaller selves.
You think?
Yathat, keeper of the smaller selves. Yathat, whose charge it was to determine the smaller selves to be slaughtered by Anzal.
There you go.
Yathat of dark eyes and dark hair.
Anzal's the cook.
Yathat, who lifted his eyes to heaven and saw the sun, moon, and the stars, and all the host of heaven, and he worshipped and served Baal in all of those things. Yathat, who was close to his brother Anak. Yathat, who taught the Rephaim how to make war with the driver and chaser, and how to bend a bow to bronze. Yathat, who had the eyes of certain death. Yathat, who growled as he killed. Yathat's army has 2,000 giants.
They had bronze fucking goddamn bows. So shit, he was teaching motherfuckers how to do war and shit. He worshipped everything. He was a pagan. He worshipped all the motherfuckers. He's like, I see y'all. Thank you.
Movek, who hated his fellow giants like a sickness.
Ooh.
Movek, who prophesied of the unspoken mistake. Movek, who hated the giants because they should have confirmed the prophecy that would end their species. Movek, who knew the giants' time was short.
Yeah.
Movek, who prophesied the coming of great waters. Movek, who was consumed by jealous dark ones that caused him to scar himself continually. Movek, who worshipped Mott openly and was as a brother to Botis.
He was a cutter.
Movek, who summoned unspeakable beasts of Mott upon the field of battle that killed many circumcised and uncircumcised alike. Movek, who attacked the Nephilim mightily until his hand was weary and would not loosen the sword. Movek, who died as a hero of old on the field of battle. Movek's army was 500 giants.
So Movek is a hero of old and the men of renown. So that was before this time even. We're hearing about these heroes of old even. And he was one of those guys. That was cool. He swung that sword for so long his hand was cramped in it. That's wild.
Jotun from the cold lands of elsewhere.
Oh, yeah. He's a fucking Nordic.
Yeah. Jotun. I think I'm going to say Jotun. 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 Whose flowing yellow hair and piercing eyes brought fear to all who looked upon him. Jotun, who wore the pelts of unknown beasts. Jotun, who sacrificed daily to Baal of the sun. Jotun, who was able to arouse the anger of the ball of the sun and called down large stones of fire against his enemies.
Yep, that's Marduk.
Jotun, who drank a potion of Enceladus and lost himself to the Dark Ones for 8 seasons.
Oh, wow.
Jotun, who helped to tear down Nimrod's high places of Baal worship. Jotun, who killed Nimrod's sons, whose names will not be mentioned, to blot them from the earth.
Oh.
Jotun's army was 500 giants.
Jotun's a badass motherfucking Nordic giant. Fucking straight up ice giant. Blonde hair. Imagine he's coming with a big horn fucking helmet. Shit, big old fucking huge axe. Just chopping motherfuckers up. And he called in beast of they don't even know what. He was like, what the fucking hell is that? It's crazy.
Ganja from
Ganja
from the cold lands of elsewhere. Ganja, who wrestled mightily with the great beasts in the blood pits of Baal of the earth. Ganja, who called down fire from Baal of the sun and did not receive it.
Ooh.
Ganja, who worshipped Baal in a wrong fashion and was promised every abomination before death. Ganja, while strong of flesh, was weak of spirit and mind. Ganja, of whom the Dark Ones avoided. Ganja, who was caught, his eyes gouged, chained to a stone, and lashed and abused by the Nephilim until he was dead.
Wow.
Gantua's army was 500 giants.
Now, Gantua, might be just a white thing. Sounds Native American to me. Gantua, one of those type people. Now, mind you, at this specific time, North America and all that shit was all covered in ice. So they would have called this the cold lands. They would have called other places the cold lands too. Like Russia was probably a cold land. So it could have been from Russia. But Gantua, like they say, even that, these Indians that are Native Americans that are in America now come from, what are they called? The fucking, those people. The Khans. The Genghis Khan people, right? I don't agree with that because why don't they use yurts? Mongolians use yurts all throughout history, bro. They don't ever use no goddamn teepees. So it's like, why would they come here and make a teepee? Why would they use a yurt like they do in Mongolia? So it's just like the same thing. Like, but these could be the native type people, one of their giants, and then they brought how many? That guy.
He had 500.
So he brought 500 of his species with him. It was like, let's rock and roll. But he worshipped Marduk the wrong way, and Marduk wouldn't send down no help for him. That sucks.
Nibos, the black giant from the hot lands of elsewhere. Nibos, who escaped capture from Nimrod's army. Nibos, who preferred a sword to an axe. Nibos, who collected 3,000 removed Nephilim heads from the fields and burned them in the high places to gods we did not know, according to the rituals of the nation from which he'd come.
Wow.
Nibos, whose Dark Ones stood beside him as trees walking. Nibos, who shaped the shores of the great land with stones and sand. Nibos, whose foreign gods told of the great waters to come. Nibos' army was 1,000 giants.
Okay. Nibos coming from, he's the black guy coming from the hot lands, right? He took some heads of these giants up on the mountaintop and burned them to gods that they didn't know, okay? His gods told him and forewarned him of the upcoming flood. That's Lord Enki, right? Marduk didn't know about no flood, right? Enlil knew about the flood, or maybe Marduk did. Maybe Marduk told people, but it's reported and recorded that Enki, Lord Enki, told Noah to make this fucking ark and shit. So could this be Noah coming into the battle, or could it just be, some of Noah's people some of those people over there in Africa coming to the battle and shit, because right here he's talking about Lord Enki told them about the flood coming so they could save people. You know, there could be one of the other gods at that council that told other people too. We'll have to research that in depth to see if there were other so-called Anunnaki that reported telling other humans, you know, there's a big flood coming, you know, make a boat or something because you guys are about to fucking die. Right. So he's a black guy from a land where his gods told him this flood's coming and we're going to sacrifice all these motherfucking heads to you. So that's pretty fucking cool, man. We're waiting for Amber.
Okay. Sorry.
So we got a couple black giants so far and a lot of white giants. Sounds like we have a couple hairy giants, a couple Bigfoot type creatures from different parts of the world. We got an Icelandic creature, right? An ice giant, a Nordic giant. We got a what sounds like one of those native giants that are legend to be in North America, right? One of those type of giants, the mound builders, right? So it sounds like these type of people are there too, right?
Sao the Black, long-haired giant from the hotlands of elsewhere. Sao, brother of Nibos. Sao, possessed by a powerful dark one who would change his form into an abomination for days upon end.
Wow. Monster.
Sao, whose madness was corrupted in the field of battle. Sao, whose warfare made no discernible sense. Sao, whose heavy, dark hair was magnificent to all who saw it. Sao, who held fast to gods we did not know and would not depart from them. Sao, who dragged the dead bodies to Stolas for food. Sao, who had the eyes of certain death. Sao, who died at the hands and weapons of the circumcised. Sao's army was 1,000 giants.
This dude is great, and everyone loves his fucking hair.
It's magnificent.
And this motherfucker dragged all the dead bodies off the field of battle straight to the kitchen and said, cook this motherfuckers up. We'll be back. This is wild, man.
Izdubar of golden skin and black eyes. Izdubar, who'd sacrificed all of his offspring to Baal of the Sun before the unspoken mistake. Izdubar, who practiced all of the soothsaying, witchcraft, and openness to dark ones that he could muster. Izdubar, who created potions with Enceladus that caused the giants to see the future of tomorrow. Izdubar, of whom there had been no giant like him before, and who worshipped Baal of the Sun with all of his soul and with all of his might, according to the laws of the kingdom. Izdubar, who foretold of the great waters to come. Izdubar, who had the eyes of certain death. Izdubar's army was 500 giants.
So he was the golden child.
Danava of golden skin and black eyes.
Another one.
Danava, whose dark ones protected him from arrows and spears. Danava, whose madness caused him to run headlong into battle. Danava, who attacked the circumcised Nephilim with fingers and teeth. Danava, who consulted a medium of Mot for guidance.
Wow.
Danava, whose staff was infused by the power of Baal of the Sun, so that all who touched it were healed from various wounds. Danava, who walked with Baal of the Sun as no other giant before or after. Danava's army was 500 giants.
Wow.
Kresil of the warmer lands of elsewhere. Kresil of golden skin and hair. Kresil, whose army the dark ones made invisible. Kresil, servant of Baal of the moon. Kresil, whose dark ones confused the circumcised Nephilim so that they said, I hear them, but I see no one. Kresil, whose army relentlessly killed and tormented the most Nephilim on the 100,000 giant war. Kresil, who practiced the darkest sorcery of Baal of the Moon within the great land. Kresil, who had prophesied the great waters. Kresil's army was 2,000 giants.
This is the War of Titans. If you guys don't know, this is what she talking about right here. This is when the gods fought the Titans.
Tiamat of the lands along the waters. Tiamat, whose body was covered with scars from struggles with water creatures. Tiamat, whose presence brought fear into the hearts of the giants, who had seen him in battle before. Tiamat, who screamed at his army that Baal of the Moon was great and greatly to be feared above all other gods. Tiamat, whose army argued about the stature of Baal of the Moon, and called down ice from the sky upon 100 of his own giants.
Wow.
Tiamat's army was 500 giants.
So he took out 100 of them motherfuckers himself.
Zokul, the prophet of Mot. Zokul, who never left Mot's temple until the time of the 100,000 giant war. Zokul, of whom Mot spoke wisdom through. Zokul, who prophesied the victory of the 100,000 giant war and the coming great waters. Zokul, possessed by dark ones that stood on his shoulders. Zokul who was aroused on the field of battle. He so hated the Nephilim and lusted for their death. Zokul, who drank the blood of the Nephilim he killed. Upon the field of battle, Zokul was possessed by a demon that none had encountered before. Zokul had the eyes of certain death. In a possessed state, attacked his own army, and he was murdered by them. Zokul's army was 2,000 giants.
Wow.
So you started fighting the wrong side.
So cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Atlan, one of the 2 tallest giants from the furthest edge of the land.
Atlan. So he's from Atlantis.
Atlan, who hounded his circumcised enemies day and night with fury. Atlan, who never feared and put his trust in Baal of the stars and celestial bodies. Atlan, who saw the Nephilim turn back in fear of his approach. Atlan, who swung his driver and chaser, exposing the yellowing entrails, blood, and bone of the circumcised Nephilim. Atlan, who twisted the circumcised Nephilim spells and curses against them with great cunning. Atlan, whose army marked the footsteps and lay in wait for the circumcised Nephilim, who would collect the foreskins of the dead Rephaim on the fields of battle.
I was eating that shit.
Atlan's army was 3,000 giants.
Atlan. It's probably from Atlantis or the Atlantic Ocean that place that fell there.
Theatin, one of the 2 tallest giants from the furthest edge of the land. So him and
the furthest edge of the land.
So yeah, from the furthest edge of the land. So Atlan and Theatin were the 2 tallest. I shouldn't say largest because we have the big guys who are heavy, bigger than anybody. But these are the 2 tallest.
They could have came from fucking Russia, like Tartaria.
Theatin,
I wish they would say east, west, north, south.
All right. Theatin, whose red hair hung about his head as a testimony of strength.
Red giant.
Theatin, who hated the circumcised Nephilim with an unnatural burning hatred.
Ooh.
Theatin, whose army tore through the Nephilim as lions tear through the sick. Theatin, whose giants set fires with oil on the field of battle and attacked outside it. Theatin, who worshipped Baal of the stars and celestial bodies. Theatin, who broke the circumcised Nephilim teeth in their mouths with rocks and other objects. Theatin, whose dark ones drove him to pursue the Nephilim for days without rest. Theatin's army was 3,000 giants.
Imagine just holding the motherfucker down, breaking his teeth out, and screaming that would be happening on that battlefield as all the other ones just stand there and watch. Because, they'd fight each other.
Mm-hmm.
One group on one group. It was never a big war. The other ones would stand there and watch. You're going to hear.
It's fucking crazy.
It is fucking crazy, dude. Like Mike Tyson goes up a little pussy. Mike Tyson going to keep winning.
Zakab, a hurler of stones and spears. It was said that Zakab could throw rocks and spears, and his mighty arms that were as large as felled tree stumps never tired. Zakab, who lived near the trees where the Rephaim tie their dead. Zakab, who had a dark one, so powerful that he could not be bound with chains, but that they broke as a thread of tow when it touches the fire. Zakab, who sacrificed to Baal of the moon at dusk every evening. Zakab's hate for the circumcised Nephilim was the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Zakab, who had the eyes of certain death, Zakab led an army of 1,000 giants who hurled stones and spears in battle.
Wow.
Baalis, the finisher, who slew all of the dying and wounded Nephilim on the field of battle. Baalis,
He's a finisher.
Yeah.
Clean up guy.
Baalis, who stacked the bodies of the dead Nephilim in large burning monuments to Baal of the earth.
Wow.
Baalis, who it was said the Dark Ones favored. Baalis, the soothsayer, who secretly worshipped Mot. Baalis, who would force wounded Nephilim faces to swim together before they broke like pottery in his grasp. Baalis, who lowered himself to the ground and attacked the circumcised as a beast of the fields would. Baalis, the finisher's army, was 2,000 giants who slew the wounded Nephilim on the battlefield.
He would get down and attack him with his mouth.
Get them while they're down. Skyron, who had lost his arm in battle alongside Gurion. Skyron, servant of Baal of the moon. Skyron, who connected to a floating beast into battle. A floating beast into battle. Same as the other guy. Skyron, who, when connected, looked like an elephant and grew his arm back. Skyron, who harvested and drank the blood of the Nephilim in clay plots with Qurans. Skyron, who demanded that those follow him shave their heads in ritualistic patterns as those from the hot lands of elsewhere do. Skyron, who trained the great beast to stand upon the circumcised and hold them still until his army cut their throats and stomped their skulls. Before the water came, the fields of battle was soaked with blood, and it was Skyron and his giants doing. Skyron's army was 500 giants.
Before what came?
Before the water came.
Before the water came, the battlefield was covered in blood, and it was Skyron just chopping people to pieces. Like, he literally was vicious with it. He didn't just kill you. He literally would hack you up in little tiny pieces like Ginsu chip. And there was never a time where they were like, all right, they're dead. You're done. You're next. No. You got to sit there and, like, literally do whatever you wanted to do. That's why they were saying this guy got to pick up and make monuments of people and burn them. They literally would watch them do this. They just sit back and be like, hey, we're feasting. Wow, look at these motherfuckers. Holy shit. It's like watching a football game. Swear to God.
Gug, the ugliest giant to walk before Baal of the earth.
Fee, fi, fo, fum.
Gug, whose ugliness would stun a bull elephant beast of the field.
Oh, damn.
Gug, who, while in a trance, spoke the words of Baal of the stars and celestial bodies. Gug, who prophesied of the great waters to come. Gug, who with his horrible visage led the first of the Rephaim into battle. Gug, who wrung Nephilim's necks and with hands that were dangerous weapons. Gug, whose terrible physical twisting was never undone. When Baal of the earth looked upon Gug, he looked with respect. Gug, who had the eyes of certain death. Gug's army was 500 giants. Hastor, Og's battle strategist. Hastor, who rode a large beast of old on the field of battle. Hastor, whose heavy black hair was a crown to him. Hastor, who was a priest for Baal of the moon. Hastor, who was honorable, and whose counsel was like deep waters. Hastor, who forced his sandaled foot into the necks of many of the felled circumcised. Hastor's army was successful because he circumcised Nephilim nation in a nation without counsel, and there is no understanding among them. Hastor, who had prophesied the loss of the unspoken mistake and the great waters. Hastor's army was 500 giants.
Lots of people prophesizing about this flood coming and the loss of the moon child. Like, So, like how it's written that no one knew. No one supposedly knew this flood was coming, but lots of motherfuckers are prophesizing about it.
The dragon siblings with white hair and blue eyes entered the 100,000 giant war from the east. The dragon siblings that told of a wealthy city in the sky. The dragon siblings who worship gods we did not know. The dragon siblings who were protected by the bright ones. The dragon siblings whose joining army had added 20,000 Rephaim to the battle. The kingdom of Og hired the dragon siblings with the gold striped from Baal of the earth's temple.
Wow.
A curse forevermore is upon all of us for our purchase.
Wow.
Their tales and exploits against the circumcised, are they not recorded in the war of giants in the mountains? Harhunt the hungry.
So hold on one second.
Okay.
So these bright ones, right? We can go back to Ireland and research bright ones and shit. And they taught the Druids and stuff. So these people, so you go back and you think, okay, what can I compare this to? And let's go back to Lord of the Rings, the three kingdoms or whatever they had to fight. Remember? So you had little people fighting and shit, and then here come all these motherfucking elves, right? So this is literally like the kingdom of white people, the kingdom of elves, though, and they had to hire these people. You notice they brought the most giants. They brought 20,000 giants with them from their whole entire kingdom of white people, the bright ones. You understand? They didn't bring dark ones with them. They didn't need dark ones. They were a different class of straight motherfucking killers, right? That's why they were the dragon people. You know, they use dragons. Imagine it. That white hair, blue eyes. What do we see in Game of Thrones? White hair, blue eyes. Those were the dragon people. This is symbolization, but telling you the story of this shit. It's wild, man.
Tarhunt the hungry.
Tarhunt the hungry.
Who ate many sour dead on the field of battle, and who was spared from sickness by a potion from Enceladus.
Yeah, so when they eat the rotten corpses, the sour means rotten. They love eating motherfuckers, but when they eat the rotten flesh, they get sick. And that's what happened before. They had two cooks. Sorry, real quick, babe. Two cooks. The one untrained cook was cooking rotten people and almost poisoned all of Og's army before they even could go out there and kill people. And then they had to make a potion that she'd tell them about.
Tarhunt, who killed as many circumcised Nephilim as Ballas the Finisher. Tarhunt the scarred and hungry, who attacked Teeth first and killed with the driver and chaser. Tarhunt, worshipper of Baal of the moon. Tarhunt, who waited upon the dark ones and was of good courage, and was strengthened by Baal of the moon. Tarhunt, who was surrounded by the voices of the dark ones that advised him. Tarhunt, who prophesied the great waters. Tarhunt, who had the eyes of certain death. Tarhunt's army was 1,000 giants. Meyer, who connected to a floating beast in battle. Meyer, who when connected looked like a rhinoceros. Meyer, who worshipped Baal of the earth. Meyer, who lifted a hillside and killed 300 circumcised Nephilim with it. Meyer, who was a lawless Rephaim, and whose dark ones hung about him like reeds by still waters. Meyer, who sang, a whip for the beast, a bridle for the Nephilim, and a rod for the Nimrod's back. Meyer, whose commitment to Baal of the earth was complete. Meyer, whose eyes had been blackened and scorched in his quest for certain death. Meyer's army was 500 giants.
Amazing.
Haya, who scattered the pieces of the circumcised Nephilim on the field of battle.
Haya means I am, guys, if you don't know.
Haya, who welcomed the dark ones of Mot within him. Haya of brutal stature, who gave his dying enemies vinegar to drink.
Wow.
Haya, who carried the dead Rephaim from the field of battle to tie to the trees where the dark ones gather.
So he gave him old wine. That's vinegar.
Haya, whose dark ones tormented the circumcised Nephilim so that they threw themselves down and dashed their stomachs and skulls open on the sharp rocks of the field of battle.
Oh my God.
Haya, whose contention with the circumcised Nephilim was as the bars of a castle. Haya's army was 1,000 giants. Arg, the red-haired, who lost an eye once in battle. Arg, who took an eye of every circumcised Nephilim he killed. Arg, who hated Nimrod with all of his soul and was responsible for Nimrod's original circumcision.
He cut his dick first.
Arg, who was so consumed by Baal of the stars and celestial bodies, dark ones gathered about him as a storm in the sand. Arg, whose dark ones spoke through him and guided the Rephaim in battle. Arg, who had the eye of certain death. Arg's army was 1,000 giants.
So he was a pirate.
Arg.
Arg.
Cacus, the dark Rephaim from the hot lands of elsewhere. No, it doesn't say black, it says dark. Cacus, worshiper of gods we did not know. Cacus, whose hair was as ropes and whose back was broad. Cacus, whose dark ones broke the bones of the circumcised Nephilim when told. Cacus, who wore high-ranking circumcised Nephilim army heads about his waist.
Wow.
Cacus, who was scarred by the ball of the moon as he pronounced a broken incantation to raise the moonchild from the dead. Cacus's army was 1,000 giants. Crocell, with crooked teeth. Crocell, who along with Zakab soaked 1,000 cedar trees in oil, set them on fire, and threw them into the kingdom of the circumcised Nephilim.
The giants labor at the trees.
Crocell, who shaved his head, but let his beard grow. Crocell, who called upon Baal of the earth to poison the rivers and the lands of the circumcised Nephilim. Crocell, who was born half consumed by darkness, so that he never did one good thing.
Wow.
Crocell, whose dark ones engulfed him as the fire licks about a sacrifice. Crocell, who studied the ways of darkness until it was all that he was. Crocell's army was 500 giants.
Yep.
Corb, the drunk. Corb, keeper of vineyards, who connected to a floating beast into battle. Corb, who when connected was as a bear. Corb, the drunken carver of idols and accursed objects of Mot. Corb, whose carvings were imbued with the blessings of Mot and his dark ones. Corb, whose mighty strength dug the circumcised valleys of Og's kingdom. Corb, who had given his flesh to the dark ones, of Mot at an early age, and whose eyes were darkened. Corb, who said the following: Let the giants serve Mot, and the nations bow down to him. Let Mot be the ruler of thy brethren. Let your brothers and fathers bow to him. Cursed be anyone who curses Mot. There will be no blessings for you. Corb's army was 500 giants. Lathat, the Rephaim keeper of weapons. Lathat, who taught the Rephaim how to kill with the driver and chaser. Lathat, who secretly worshipped Mot. Lathat, as he bled and circumcised Nephilim, screamed, This is the blood of the circumcised covenant which is shed for the circumcised giants. Do this in remembrance of Mot. Lathat with red hair, who ran mad in the forest under the power of many dark ones. Lathat, who mixed animals and creatures into new beasts with the power of Baal of the earth.
Oh, shit.
Lathat, who placed rods in the sight of the animals in the gutters, so that they would mate strangely by the rods. Lathat, who would not breed the animals that were feeble, for the feeble were for the eating, but the strong were for warfare. Lathat, whose unnatural beasts were both a blessing and a curse from Baal of the earth. Lathat's army was 500 giants.
That's cool.
Yebsu, the bastard son of Baal of the earth, with no discernible parentage.
Huh.
Yebsu, who ate the yellowing entrails of all he killed. Yeb-Su of old, who conversed regularly with the bright ones. Yeb-Su, whose dark ones made him as a beryl, with his face and appearance of lighting, and his eyes of lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color of polished brass, and the voice of his words as the voice of a multitude of spirits. Yeb-Su, who knew the incantation to raise the dead. Yeb-Su's army was 3,000 giants.
So here we have the son of all the earth, and he can raise the dead. And he's white as fuck, he says. He's shiny.
Sandar, the dark Rephaim from the hot lands of elsewhere. Sandar, who shaved his head bald before Ball of the Earth. Sandar, who threw rocks and missiles over the field of battle with Sakab and Crocel. Sandar, who set 7 dark ones by themselves within him that spoke through him in turn. Wow. Sandar, who defended his army from its enemies, saying, I will defend this army to save it, for Ball of the Earth's sake and for the uncircumcised in the kingdom of Og's sake. Sandar, who delivered his army from the circumcised with unspoken fury. Sandar's army was 500 giants. Zaphan, high priest of Ball of the Sun. Zaphan, whose dark ones appeared as 3 dark giants flanking him. Zaphan, who was captured by the circumcised Nephilim, dragged into Nimrod's kingdom and thrown into a furnace. Zaphan, who cried out before the flames, Shall I be cursed to die of flames as a high priest of Ball of the Sun? Perhaps Ball of the Sun has not redeemed us from the curse invoked because we hang our heads on trees where the dark ones gather after all. Nimrod then ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times more than it was usually heated. 15 of Nimrod's guards died from the heat as they pushed Zaphan into the furnace.
Wow.
And Nimrod said, Did I not put 1 Rephaim in the furnace? And Nimrod's guards that remained replied, He was but 1 uncircumcised Rephaim. And Nimrod replied, Look, I see 4 giants walking about loose in fire, and one of them looks like Ball of the Moon. Then Nimrod came near the mouth of the fiery furnace and spoke and said, Zaphan, you servant of Ball of the Moon, come on out here. When Zaphan exited the furnace, not a hair on his head was singed.
You heard that, right?
Nor was his armor or weapons hot.
Holy shit.
Nor had the smell of fire come upon him. Zaphan then said, I am a servant of Ball of the Sun, but rightly you speak, because Ball of the Moon, Ball of the Earth, Ball of the stars and celestial bodies, and Ball of the Sun were in your furnace. Zaphan was then beheaded by Nimrod.
Wow.
Zaphan's army was 500 giants.
So this dude survived the fucking fire. A fire so hot that 15 guards burned up in flames throwing his ass in there, dude. Holy shit.
Ornias, the willfully dark. Ornias, whose countenance was like lightning and whose raiment was white as snow. Ornias, who prayed into the eternal, immortal, invisible, and only Ball of the Moon. Ornias, who captured the circumcised Nephilim, not to kill them, but that they should be tormented as a hand when a scorpion strikes it. Ornias, whose dark ones protected his body and healed his wounds. Ornias, whose dark ones hated him and whispered against him to devise his harm.
That's shitty.
Ornias, whose anger lasted for a lifetime, who had no favor for life, who wept until the morning, and whose joy never came.
He was just pissed off, crying at nighttime, and never happy.
Ornias, who remained close to Og in battle. Ornias, who had the blackened eye of certain death.
Whoa.
And that concludes chapter 3 and all of the Nephilim giant commanders, I guess you could say.
Dun, dun, dun. How much we got to read?
Well, let's see how much we have in chapter 4. let's see here. We're already
Can we read that
a little
first
over
part,
2
right?
hours, so hold on. Let me just see here.
I'll be quiet and smoke weed. And you talk. Oh God, Gramps. Gramps for Gramps.
So I think we can get through.
Oh God.
We'll get through.
No.
We'll get through the preparations of the battle.
Oh God.
And we'll start the breakout of war. Oh, well, I won't be here next week for that. But we'll go ahead and start the preparations. That's not too long here. We'll see where we're at after.
We gotta have 2 episodes because we won't have one next week.
I won't be here next week.
Yeah, so you gotta keep reading.
All right. So we'll go ahead and do 2 chapters this week. Pack that bowl, light those fucking offerings, guys. Sit down and open your mind up for some more. This is when it gets good. We just heard about the leaders. Now we get to hear about the bullshit, like the craziness.
Check this war out, man.
The battle preparations. Chapter 4, the 100,000 Giant War. This is the 100,000 Giant War, as described by both Enoch, the keeper of the bodies before Baal, and Anzal, the slayer of the smaller selves before Baal. 420.
420.
Cheers,
How perfect.
everybody.
I'm like always running a ball. I didn't even look. Happy 420, everybody.
Now the uncircumcised Rephaim came to join forces with King Og, arriving from the hot and cold lands of elsewhere. All the dispersed uncircumcised Rephaim from the 4 corners of the world they came. When the uncircumcised Rephaim had arrived, King Og anointed his hair and beard with oil. He stood before 100,000 of them, all in the high place of Baal of the earth, and looking over his warriors and kingdom, he spoke with a loud voice, saying, "Thrust in your sickle and reap, for the time is come for you to reap. For the harvest of the earth is ripe. For Baal of the earth and for the loss of the moon child, we go to war." He said, his voice was strong as that of harpists, musicians, pipers, and of trumpeters. Baal of the moon then spoke through King Og's smaller self, sorceresses. They spoke to Ogias, Ornias, Anzal, and Anak, the keeper of the bodies before Baal, saying, "Take 50 giants, one from each army, and command each one of the 50 to carry a stone as large as he can upon his shoulders, and lay them at the entrance to the fields of battle. This is where your army will sleep for the night before battle tomorrow."
Yep.
The Rephaim did as Baal of the moon had instructed them. 50 of the leaders of the armies carried large stones on their shoulders and piled them near the entrance to the field of battle. King Og, Ogias, Ornias, and Anak, the keeper of the dies before Baal, each moved the 50 stones to the center of the entrance to the field of battle between Og and Nimrod's kingdoms. The stones were to stay there to this very day.
See, somewhere there's these 50 fucking stones.
Massive ass stones.
They're giants.
Like they would be a mountain to us, stones, because the giants carried them on their shoulders. So
now, mind you, a great flood came, so they possibly got toppled over or something. But somewhere on this planet, we can find this debris. I guarantee it, and that's where this fucking battle was, dude. Go ahead, though. We're gonna find out. Possibly you might be able to find it by other topography, like a broken top of a mountain.
Anak then spoke to the army of 100,000 and said, "These stones are assigned to you so that when the smaller selves ask you, 'What do these stones mean to you?' you can tell them, 'The circumcised Nephilim were cut off from the kingdom of Og and from Baal of the moon. Therefore, these stones will always be a memorial for the uncircumcised Rephaim forever." King Og's armies set up a camp. The giants then celebrated with food and drink served by Stolas,
Pay attention what their food was.
Typhoeus, and their 2,500 giants. After the armies of King Og were satisfied with the marrow and the fatness, the bread, the cakes, the bunches of raisins and red wine, they pushed their plates away and fell into a deep slumber. and Baal of the moon gave King Og's army a spirit of slumber, eyes that should not see, and ears they should not hear until the day of warfare. And Baal of the moon passed over the 100,000 uncircumcised Rephaim warriors continually throughout the night. Baal of the moon soothed the dark ones, calming them, which allowed the uncircumcised Rephaim to continue their heavy slumber. The bleeding fingers of Baal of the sun then carved the light of dawn before them. On that day of the full moon, the uncircumcised awoke, and the day star rose in their hearts. Now on that morning of the full moon, the leaders of King Og's armies had gathered about his tent and awaited wisdom and instruction. To perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity for the world was set to change on that day. King Og stood at the entrance to his tent and prayed loudly to Baal of the moon before his army, and Unzal transcribed it thusly. The prayer of King Og before the war with the circumcised. Let Baal of the moon arise. Let the circumcised be scattered. Let them also that hate him flee before him. As smoke is driven away, so drive them away. As wax melts before the fire, so let the circumcised Nephilim perish at the presence of Baal of the moon. But let the uncircumcised be glad. Let us rejoice before Baal of the moon. Yes, let us exceedingly rejoice. Sing to Baal of the moon. Sing praises to his power. Extol him that rideth upon the heavens. With Baal of the sun, both of whose name is also Baal. And rejoice before him. A god of the fatherless and a judge of the circumcised Nephilim is Baal of the moon. Baal of the moon sets the lonely uncircumcised Rephaim in families of power. He brings out those which are bound with chains, but the circumcised Nephilim will dwell in diseased lands. Baal of the moon, when you walk before the uncircumcised Rephaim, when you march through the wilderness, we will remember the unspoken mistake. Baal of the moon sends a plentiful rain to confirm his inheritance in the battle yet to come. Your giants dwell within you, O Baal of the moon. And you have prepared goodness for even the poor in your servant King Og's kingdom. Baal of the moon has given the word. Great are the uncircumcised that follow it. The land of all kingdoms will be a blessing to your servant King Og. When Baal of the moon scatters the circumcised Nephilim kings in it, they will die as fish on dry land. They will grasp with their mouths, and their heads will be stomped upon. The high places of Baal are higher than the hills of your servant King Og. All are the places that Baal of the moon dwells. Never forget the unspoken mistake. Baal of the moon has ascended on high, and has smiled upon the uncircumcised Rephaim, and has received his gifts from the giants. Yes, for Baal dwells among them. Baal of the moon, who is drunk with the blood of the burnt smaller self children. Blessed be Baal of the moon, who daily loaded us down with heavy blessings. And blessed be even the God of our afterworld Mot. He that is Baal of the moon is the God of our war against the circumcised Nephilim. And unto this Baal of the moon belongs the rights to the deaths of these circumcised Nephilim. And Baal of the moon shall wound the heads of these circumcised Nephilim, and break the hairy, itchy scalps of any circumcised Nephilim who has cut his foreskin with razor, rock, or tooth. And Baal of the moon shall see the uncircumcised and Baal of the moon shall see the uncircumcised Rephaim dip their feet in the blood of the circumcised Rephaim. Blood of the circumcised Nephilim, and the tongues of Og's beast of old will lick the same. The singers of Kotos will go before us. The players on the horns of beasts will follow. Prepare yourselves. The battle belonged to your servant King Og. Behold, a new fear will grip Nimrod and his compromised loins. Your servant King Og will raise his arms. Ball of the moon has commanded your strength. O strengthen, O Rephaim, and prepare to bruise the head of the circumcised Nephilim. Rebuke the company of circumcised Nimrod's spearmen in the multitude of the uncircumcised. Scatter those who have scattered their foreskins. Slaughter those that have slaughtered their members. Sing unto Baal of the moon, O ye kingdoms of the earth. Sing praises unto Baal. Never forget the unspoken mistake. To him that rides upon the heavens of heavens with Baal of the sun, which were of old, lo, he does send out his voice, and that is a mighty voice. Ascribe all the strength to your hairy arms unto Baal of the moon. His excellency is over Og's kingdom, and his strength is in the clouds. O Baal of the moon, you are terrible when you are out of your high places. My Baal of the moon, he is he that gives strength and power unto his people. Blessed are they that burn the pure of heart at the high places, for they shall see Baal of the moon. Blessed be Baal of the earth, moon, sun, stars, and constellations, and blessed be Mot.
So you can go out if you don't keep smoking.
King Og puts on the whole armor of Baal. That was a prayer.
King Og's armor is super special, though. You're going to see someone steals it later and gets fucking... I think it's this story.
I'm sorry, it went out.
I knew it.
I'm sorry.
I think it's...
I didn't want to break
Hercules
that. It
steals
was
his armor. Or somebody steals his armor or something like that. But his armor is, like, dope.
It was a flowing prayer that I didn't really want to break.
This is tough weed right here. Yeah, 420 there, drum beats offline.
Cheers. Cheers, everybody.
So it's just wild. So Baal of the moon is whatever god of the moon they're praying to. Now, this is probably Semyaza, the leader of the fallen angels. You know what I'm saying? They probably went from the Mars and then went and made moon bases. You know, whoever they were talking about, Baal of the earth, Baal of the moon, Baal of the fucking, you know, sun. We already know Baal of the sun's rock. Baal of the moon would be these fallen angels and shit right there.
I didn't really get a letter. Okay, so King Og puts on the whole armor of Baal. Then, before the army of 100,000 giants, Enoch helped King Og put on the whole armor of Baal, so that he would able to stand against the wiles of the incoming circumcised. So King Og took to himself the whole armor of Baal of the earth, so that he would withstand on the day of war, and having done all, to stand. King Og stood with his feet apart, having girded his loins with the truth of the uncircumcised. He wore the breastplate of Baal of the moon. King Og had also shod his feet with the preparation for total warfare. Above all, King Og took the shield of Baal of the stars and constellations to quench all the fiery darts of the circumcised Nephilim. And King Og fixed Mot's helmet off the afterlife upon his head, and the sword of Baal of the sun, which illuminates the life that surrounds all uncircumcised Rephaim. After his armor had been fitted upon him, King Og then cursed in his heart, and continued to curse always with all purpose and hatred.
So basically, this dude's got all his fucking armor on. He's got a sword that's fucking fiery and shines light out of it, right? Like a lightsaber. And he's got cock rings around his cock and armor basically covering his cock, but to show off the brilliance of his uncircumcised penis, right? He's got a big cock sheath. It's probably, who knows, it could be fucking pierced or something. But, you know, he's like, basically, all of this armor and everything goes down to show his big old cock and it's uncircumcised. You know what I'm saying?
And King Og had commanded that his 100,000 giants step forward and enter onto the field of battle, which was a desert. And the desert was called Damnation.
So in damnation, so it was in the desert, right? Now, when we think in desert, we might think Sahara, all sand and shit like that. But, there's deserts around the world that are hard ground with little rocks and shit. We look at them as little boulders and stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's still a desert, right? Giants running around in the Sahara Desert, you might have a little trouble with the sand. I'm just saying. So wherever it was a desert. I think it was Australia. I have this weird thought that was in Australia that they were talking about.
So I actually forgot. I skipped over a couple spots here. After his armor had been fitted upon him, King Og then cursed in his heart and continued to curse always with all purpose and hatred he could muster against the circumcised Nephilim. For King Og's uncircumcised Rephaim wrestled not against complete giants, but against the circumcised, against their circumcised smaller selves, and against the dark ones of Nimrod's land, against spiritual abomination leaking from individuals within compromised loins.
Yeah, so basically these Rephaim, children of the fallen angels, so these were called the children of the rocket ships. These were giants, though. They called us people that, Christians and people following God and shit like that. That's not me, but I'm saying our people, us, like us humans that live here today, motherfucking every goddamn day, everyday person, right? An everyday person. They were calling us a spiritual something. It was like I don't know what the hell the word was, spiritual something, but we were fucked up in their eyes. But in our eyes, they was fucked up. They was the bad guys. But in their eyes, we were the bad guys. And they was like, that's a blasphemy. Well, you cutting your penises off. Nah, that's fucked up. You know what I'm saying? They were not down with the team.
And King Og turned and commanded that his 100,000 giants step forward and enter onto the field of battle, which was a desert. And the desert was called Damnation. King Og's uncircumcised armies looked across the field of battle, and there they saw Nimrod's great armies gathered at the entrance of Nimrod's kingdom. The circumcised Nephilim and their circumcised smaller selves then stood on the field of battle, and their number was as the sand that is upon the seashore in multitude.
That was the humans. So here,
that was both giants and humans.
Yeah. Well, what he said when he went to Nimrod's kingdom, they were lined up on the edge of Nimrod's kingdom. So wherever Nimrod's kingdom was, we already know that's Babylon. But they said on the edge of Nimrod's kingdom. So they're like, two butted up places. So they met in the middle somewhere. So it could have been Iraq. It could be in Iraq. You know what I'm saying? We'll have to look for these rocks.
The circumcised Nephilim with their dark ones clouding in their midst as if the army were smoldering in a black fire.
Wow. Which side?
The circumcised Nephilim with their dark ones clouding in their midst as if the army were smoldering in a black fire.
Wow.
And the uncircumcised Nephilim looked powerful and favorable to King Og and his army. And the fear of a lost battle entered into King Og. And he fell forward and prophesied from Ball of the Earth, saying before his army, giants that fear Ball of the Earth, such giants we are. Giants that remember the unspoken mistake and the Moonchild, such giants we are. Giants of war, hating circumcision and all the circumcised Nephilim, such giants we are. Ball of the Earth is upon us. And we shall be rulers of thousands and rulers of 5,000s, rulers of 10,000s and rulers of millions. The war, the 100,000 giant war. Here we go.
That's just insane.
And war broke out between Og's and Nimrod's kingdoms. Og and his giants marched across the desert that is damnation toward the circumcised Nephilim. And the circumcised Nephilim and Nimrod marched to meet them. And the uncircumcised Rephaim released the elephants, rhinoceros, great beasts of old, and the creeping things onto the field of battle. The circumcised Nephilim brought no beasts whatsoever. So the Rephaim fought the war and acted wisely concerning it, and each giant girded his weapon of war and fought according to all that Baal of the earth, moon, sun, stars, celestial bodies, and Mot had told them. Each of the uncircumcised Rephaim killed 100 or more of the circumcised Nephilim. There has been no violence likened to the 100,000 giant war before or since.
Trying to let it go.
And water began to fall from the sky, and all who marched were wet, and their weapons were made heavy because of it. The uncircumcised Rephaim, whose minds were full of violence, were driven on by the death of the moonchild and their hatred of circumcision, which strengthened their violent resolve. The circumcised Nephilim also had minds of violence and anger about the moonchild worth going to war over.
So it's starting to rain. The rain's starting to come down. Everyone's starting to get all wet, right?
And the water mixed with the ground of the fields of battle, which were called damnation, and the mud became thick and slowed them some.
Yep, mud got thick, slowed them down. So they definitely weren't in the sand. They were someplace that could turn to mud.
The uncircumcised walked forward to the circumcised, and the circumcised walked forward to the uncircumcised. The Rephaim walked upon the field of battle, which is called damnation, as if in the midst of the sea. And the waters fell upon them, and to their right hand, and to their right hand and on their left. The giants carried their swords, axes, drivers and chasers, and lances, and led their beasts of old to kill on the field of battle. The fountains of the deep opened also, and the windows of heaven opened wider, and rain fell unrestrained upon the field of battle, and the waters returned to the earth continually, and they were not abated. This was the very beginning of the 40-night and day rain prophecy that had been foretold by the priests of Baal of the sun, who were as follows: Halpas, Dantalion, Valak, Citri, Person, and Decarabit. I keep forgetting you're sticky.
Yep, so here it just tells biblical prophecy of the earth bursting open from the ground. We see this today. I got all kinds of videos saved of the ground opening up and water shooting out this motherfucker, bro, like in our times right now. These were happening. Now, they said the water would keep coming every single day. It sounds almost like they were in like a big, huge volcanic area. It's a desert, right? But it's almost like all these motherfuckers were standing up on the mountaintops. This middle section was getting filled up with water, and every day they would like get rid of the water, but every day it would fill back up. So wow, this shit's crazy.
The mud then became as a thick, cold darkness that swallowed at the Rephaim feet as they marched.
Wow.
The anger and hatred grew within King Og's army against the circumcised Nephilim. For Baal of the moon sent his wrath in this war against this circumcised nation. Baal of the moon hardened King Og's heart so that he would not lose the war. Baal of the moon then strengthened King Og and his giants to take the plunder and to strip off the spoil from the temples and the dwellings, and to trample the circumcised Nephilim like beggars in the streets. Now Kotos blew the beast's horn, and his army of 2,000 giants began to chant, saying, "The battle belongs to King Og."
So they're at Babylon, outside of that motherfucking Nimrod's kingdom, you know, Iraq. And they're outside killing motherfuckers. And they're like, yo, let's go kill all these motherfuckers in their houses so we don't got to fight them later. Smart move.
Kotos' army then blew their horns, and all 100,000 of Og's army continued the chant.
Hell yeah.
The blackening ground shook and grew wetter still as a marsh or riverbed. The field of battle became heavy as when one is sent to me with heavy tidings. and the rain poured with more violence upon the earth. King Og's army continued, and the great beasts of old marched with them. The dark ones leapt from uncircumcised Rephaim to uncircumcised Rephaim, and there was much darkness and spiritual terror on both sides of the field of battle. The dark ones covered the uncircumcised Rephaim with large whirlwind that circled and climbed into the rain above them.
Wow.
The sky then cracked with lightning, and the thunder was heard throughout both kingdoms.
Wow.
The rain poured onto the field of battle as water pours from a pitcher.
Wow.
The dark ones floated across the water between the armies. Varus's dark ones went across and entered the circumcised Nephilim, learned of their battle secrets, and returned them to him. Briareos' dark ones followed, who entered the circumcised Nephilim and confused their ways so that they would wound one another. Amok's dark ones sent across the desert of damnation and wounded and disemboweled the circumcised Nephilim. Cacus's dark ones broke the bones of many of the circumcised Nephilim on the front lines of the field of battle.
They're attacking with their damn demons.
Mm-hmm.
They're dark ones, they're spirits, and they're going, go get them. The ones that are able to control them and send them out. You heard in the beginning here, we had the description of the different kings and what they're able to do, right? So some people are sitting back and they're throwing projectiles and missiles and shit, spears and rocks. And other ones, they're the wizards. They're the ones that can throw out stuff, but they throw out dark ones. They're going, fuck up all these people. So that's what you're hearing here. When they say they're throwing their dark ones, they're throwing literal spirit.
Their spirit.
The
earth spirit.
Earth spirit out at these motherfuckers and just they're tearing them to pieces.
They're able to not maybe control, but really request. They're on a level of understanding with these spirits that they're able to request things from them and say, go do this now. Go do that now.
Go eat that people from me.
Gygas of curved limbs then conjured a powerful dark one, which crossed to the circumcised Nephilim and entered Mulin, the Nephilim, who was a mighty warrior in Nimrod's kingdom. Mulin then turned and killed 1,000 of his own circumcised Nephilim while under the power of Gygas' dark one. Then Kresil, whose dark ones made his army invisible, led the charge to the circumcised Nephilim.
Holy shit, these motherfuckers are invisible. After they just got like a super huge Nephilim, fallen angel, they possessed his ass with one of the dark ones, made him turn around. He killed 1,000 of his own dudes before they got him out of there. Now, here's the thing, though. Remember, there was 100,000 giants. This is the thing that was kind of a little confusing, I think, for her. So, when they got to Babylon, there was the whole world was there. We have 100,000 giants over here, and we have some small people running around that they mainly eat. The whore of Babylon, the world of Babylon was at this battle, right? The entire planet of small people, us, the Nephilim, the Anunnaki were watching. That's who they were praying to. And they were like, oh, we don't know who the hell they're praying to. Because over here, these people were praying to God and shit. You know what I'm saying? God was Marduk or da-da-da-da-da. So the whole world was at this battle for the flood. Go watch the movie Noah. You're going to see the whole world shows up and tries to get on that boat, don't they? The big war goes on and shit. They're depicting this war in the smallest little fragmented section. But the whole planet, all the people of the world showed up and came to this battle to defend. And they were like, sorry, made us cut our penises. And now they want to kill them all. But they're like, we're going to kill all these motherfuckers. So this giant turns around. One of the fallen angels, one of your Gabriels or Michaels or whatever, turns around and kills 1,000 of the motherfuckers, right? And then they send what? They did what to him?
Then Kresil, whose dark ones made his army invisible, led the charge to the circumcised Nephilim. Kresil led with his army, whom his dark ones made invisible, so that all that could be seen was splashing of their feet, and all that could be heard was the chanting.
Oh my God, that's
the battle
terrifying.
belongs to King Og. Now, Krussel's invisible army attacked the circumcised Nephilim, throat and groin, and divided the circumcised Nephilim battle line in half. The circumcised Nephilim were filled with great fear because of Krussel's invisible army, and they cried out, "I hear the uncircumcised, but I see no one." Krussel's army then relentlessly killed the most circumcised Nephilim in the 100,000 Giant War until their dark ones left them.
Wow. So they would have kept going. Their dark ones just left them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit. They got bored. Got bored of slicing people up. That's insane.
Now Sandar, who did not respect Enoch, the keeper of the bodies,
What up, my son?
stood by the stones that the Rephaim had collected the day before, as a memorial unto them. Sandar then commanded the strongest 50 of his army of 500 giants to join him, and they threw the stones over Krussel and the uncircumcised Rephaim. The stones fell and crushed many of the circumcised Nephilim in the rain. Sandar, whose dark ones spoke in turn through him, then led his army onto the field of battle to kill and defile the wounded.
Yeah.
So those stones that were piled up, we
They've
now
been
just
moved.
found out that Sandar, who did not respect Enoch, the keeper of the bodies, stood by the stones they collected the day before and tossed them onto the Nephilim.
Onto the battlefield,
so
though.
We don't need to be looking for a pile of rocks no more. We
They're
need to
still
find
there.
a battlefield that has big ass stones scattered through the whole damn thing.
But yet there's a flood coming.
So they could have been covered by all the sand and silt that the flood created.
And they're still using frequency. So liquefaction could happen.
Yeah, a lot of possibilities here.
It could be Britain. What if it's these fucking stones, dude? Those huge stones. What if it's fucking Karnak?
Then Virak, the perfect, whose visage was beautiful, led his army of 500 uncircumcised Rephaim into battle. After many of his uncircumcised Rephaim had been killed, Virak looked to the sun and called out,
That's for you.
"Have I not served you with my moving large voice, O ball of the sun? Show me your hatred for the circumcised." And rocks of fire fell from heaven with the rain, crushing many circumcised Nephilim.
Yep.
King Og stood at the entrance to the field of battle, and with his voice of destruction that the entire field of battle heard, commanding, "All giants with floating beasts shall ride forward into battle."
Now, do they mean floating beasts? I think they mean.
It's like flying. I feel like flying. I feel like it's flying beasts
I
because they
think-
float,
I think they're talking about
but it's wet now.
a spaceship of some sort. Now, they say when they're connected to their floating beast,
They look like things. One looks
they
like a
can
bear.
transform
One looks like a
into something.
rhinoceros. Right.
So just like Lord Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, once they're connected to their floating beast, they're able to transform into something. Like, we need to get in and find what the fuck this floating beast is. Don't say it's a bird. Don't say it's like Avatar. They don't change into nothing. They're just connected to it. I understand what that is, but it's like, come on, we got to find that one. What is?
It's like
floating
they.
beast?
It's like they don't. They not only connect in mind,
the
but they
cloud.
connect in body, as in
Yeah,
like they
spirit.
morph into one being. It
Yeah.
seems, that
Into,
kind of thing,
like a different creature.
like a transformer. Of
Yeah,
some
one
sort.
was a rhinoceros. The other dude was an elephant. He would get his arm back. The other dude was a snake or whatever the fuck. A bear, a lion.
Now Nimrod and his army of circumcised giants did not have floating beasts or animals of warfare through his army, as were the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. The ranks of the uncircumcised Rephaim, warring in the rain and muck, then killed their closest Nephilim, so the ranks could be opened. Now the ground shook as the uncircumcised Rephaim connected with their floating beasts and galloped forward into battle, eviscerating circumcised Nephilim as they went, or eviscerating. Arrows and swords did not penetrate or harm them. Skyron connected with his floating beast and became as a hairy elephant with tusks and horns. Skyron, the blood drinker, entered the battle with 500 giants and many trained beasts. The trained beasts gored and stood upon the circumcised Nephilim, pinning them to the ground until the giants, under Skiron's command, killed them or they drowned.
Wow.
Skiron killed and mauled 400 circumcised Nephilim that day. Then Meyer lifted a mountainside and threw it upon the circumcised Nephilim, killing 300 of them.
Lifted a mountainside.
Meyer then connected with his floating beast and became as a rhinoceros with many horns. Meyer, who while connected, screamed, "A whip for the beast, a bridle for the Nephilim, and a rod for Nimrod's back." Meyer's army of 500 uncircumcised Rephaim followed him and slaughtered scores of circumcised Nephilim with no fear, as butchers slaughtered dull beasts for meat. And Meyer and his army were responsible for a very great slaughter, for there fell of the circumcised 1,000 giants. Korb the drunk connected to his floating beast and became as a bear. Korb, with his army of 500 giants, clawed and tore into the ground, digging under the rain before the circumcised Nephilim, and created a mud pit that the circumcised Nephilim fell into and were killed. And the waters of the mud pit were so full of blood that Korb remarked, "Do not look at the field of battle or its pit when it is red, when it gives its color at your feet, when it moves itself aright, lest at the end you forget to bite like a serpent or sting like an adder." Korb and his army then held they that had not yet died under the mud, drowning them in the rain. For the circumcised Nephilim offended all who believed in Baal of the moon, earth, sun, stars, celestial bodies, and Mot. It was better for them that a Rephaim's fists were hanging about their necks and that they were drowned in the depth of the muck.
See, they're drowning these motherfuckers in the mud. Not just the water. They're drowning them in the mud, getting them stuck in the mud.
Then Arkrut, who sharpened his fingernails, pressed forward with his army of 500. Arkrut connected with his floating beast and became as a lion.
Wow.
Arkrut remained close to the ground and tore at the flesh of the genitals of the circumcised Nephilim that attacked. Arkrut's army followed suit, and the entire melee was concerned with removing the loins of the circumcised Nephilim on the field of battle. And they cut at the linen breeches the circumcised Nephilim used to cover their nakedness. From the loins unto the thighs, the Rephaim hacked and assaulted. The severed circumcised members were to be eaten or cast to the dogs by the falling waters. And the circumcised Nephilim cried out as they all felt the second great pain in their members.
They're chopping dicks off and eating them or feeding them to their dogs. Holy shit, their dogs are dire wolves.
The circumcised Nephilim cried out as they all felt the second great pain in their members, the first being the loss of their foreskins. Arkrut and his army cut at their genitals in all manners with knives and lancets, till the blood gushed and mixed with the waters. Og, who had no connection to any spiritual things whatsoever, and who followed not the customs of Og's land, Og, who brought nets for fishing onto the field of battle, swung the nets into the water and secured many circumcised Nephilim. Og's army of 5,000 giants then attacked and killed all 700 of the circumcised Nephilim that were under Og's nets.
Bunch of motherfuckers.
The circumcised Nephilim, upon witnessing how many of their brethren had fallen to Og's nets, focused all their attention upon Og. Og then became hesitant and inactive on the battlefield, as one who is confused. Nimrod's circumcised army threw large stones at Og, which stunned him further. When the circumcised Nephilim saw that Og was useless, they ran forward and killed his army, and Og was pierced and besieged by spears in the stomach, and hacked with axes at the shoulders by both Andros and Opir, the circumcised generals in Nimrod's army, until he died.
Wow.
He froze. Now Yugthoth, the black Rephaim, whose dark ones visibly rested upon his shoulders and whispered to him, entered the battle. Yugthoth then called down fire from Baal of the sun, and great plumes of fire consumed hundreds of the uncircumcised Nephilim in the rain, and their dark ones were scattered. There was so much fire and chaos on the field of battle that the uncircumcised Nephilim reasoned with themselves, saying, if this giant can call down fire from Baal of the sun in the rain, then he must be Baal's heir. Come, let us kill him, that the inheritance may be ours.
Oh, man, they were really after his ass.
And the uncircumcised Nephilim focused upon Yugthoth and his army of 1,000 giants. The circumcised Nephilim killed and wounded Yugthoth's army until none could protect him anymore. The rains continued to fall, and the ground was covered in mud and water to a giant's knees. Yugthoth saw the circumcised surrounding him and rejoiced to the heavens, and to Baal of the sun that dwells within them. Now Baal of the sun looked down favorably upon Yugthoth, and a voice from the sky spoke, saying, woe to the circumcised inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for Baal of the sun is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knows that they have but a short time. As soon as the voice had spoken, a funnel of fire crossed through the field of battle, which wounded and consumed hundreds of the circumcised Nephilim. In the rain, Yugthoth, who was surrounded, reached into the waters by his legs and pulled forth the skull of a great beast of old. Yugthoth then swung the skull as one swings a hammer, shattering and breaking the bodies of 50 circumcised Nephilim with it.
Dinosaur.
Yugthoth was
Swing
then
dinosaur at
killed.
your ass.
Yugthoth was then killed as a Shax, the circumcised Nephilim, ran a spear through his neck.
Yeah. So imagine this. The water is already up to the giant's knees. So that mud's getting deeper. Water's not the problem. It's the mud that they've made all this muckery of down there. And it's all beat up from them stomping back and forth, you know. So they're going to start getting stuck in this mud. And it's up. The water's up to the giant's knees. So the smaller selves were only as tall as waist high. Normal, tall as waist high, right?
A lot of us have probably died by now.
Well, we were having it. So if we were only waist high, it would be halfway up us, the water.
We'd be like up here.
So we're like
wading through there,
trying to get through it. We're jumping on boats trying to attack giants now, and they're just fucking us up. You see, he's like, the one dude threw a whole net and caught hundreds of them because they couldn't do shit. We were stuck in water.
So
we're stuck in mud. We're fucking.
The hippie fisherman had a great idea, and that's why he was the first to die, because they were like, "Oh goddamn, take him the fuck out."
Yep. as soon as the taller ones were like, "Oh shit, look, they're killing all the little guys stuck in the mud. Let's go kill them real quick while they're killing those guys and slaughter them real fast." They slaughtered the shit out of them. But yeah, that's really interesting though. You hear this flood water coming up, mind you. They already talked. You might say, "Well, it's just raining, Twisted. It's not the flood.
It's pouring as from a pitcher,
from the ground and from the top.
It is not just rain.
It is pouring rain, like the most rain you ever seen. Tornadoes are happening.
Monsoon season.
You ask yourself, where's the Anunnaki at, Twisted? Well, we read the story when the Anunnaki knew Nibiru was coming, because that's what happened. Nibiru was coming too close to Earth. I'm gonna fuck shit all up. And he said, "Yo, you got to get out of here." They dipped off in the fucking spaceships.
Yep.
It's written that they've hovered right there and watched it all get destroyed. So it took a while. It wasn't real quick. They was sat up there and watched this whole battle. And while they were watching the battle, they were like, "Yo, Marduk, help me out, yo." Enlil didn't give no fuck. Maybe other ones didn't give no fucks. I don't know. But Marduk kept shooting down motherfucking meteors at people. Now, you could say possibly that exactly happened when they called for it, right? Or we could just know that Nibiru was going by, throwing all kinds of meteors at the planet, bro. Brimstone and fire was coming down. And on a geographical location on Earth, for it to randomly just hit there is probably happening, hitting everywhere, man. That's just like,
and they just so happen to be asking for it there. So,
yeah, that's a frequency. They had power, so they were bringing it down. They had magic and shit. I get it. You know, they was like, give me that one. I want some of these.
Totally.
Other ones would try to do it and couldn't do it. They thought they was not being blessed, but they just didn't have that right power, I bet you.
I think we have to think about
your kung fu no good.
The consciousness of power back then too, and the ability to know how to use it.
Yeah.
These are things we don't know and we cannot fathom on an average basis, on a general basis right now. That's why we're like, whatever. So many people are just, they scoff at this stuff because they think it's totally unbelievable. But it was a different world back then, man. There was different beings back then that could do way different things and were connected way differently to the beings and the energies around them.
And they were taught.
They knew what to do and how to do it.
They were taught by who you call God, you know, because these are, you might say, why are these giants here then? I thought these Nephilims and shit were part of them. No, bro. We had Anunnaki. You're talking about leadership Anunnaki. That's the only people who got in their spaceships and left. They left all the Nephilim, fallen angels. They left the Raphaim, the fucking, all the people, everyone here to die is what they left here. Everyone was bad. All the animals, and, you know, we have Noah's Ark. We know about this, so that's coming. It's right here. Noah's in there fighting. You guys just don't know who Noah is.
The battle then went heavily against Enoch, who was possessed and spoke unintelligibly because of the dark ones within him. Through the rain,
unlike TwizTD RootZ.
Through the rain, the circumcised Nephilim archers hit him in the center of his army, and he was badly wounded by the archers. Then Enoch said to his armor bearer, "Draw your sword and pierce me through with it. Otherwise, these uncircumcised will come and pierce me through and make sport of me."
Yep.
But his armor bearer would not, for he was afraid he was talking to a dark one and not Enoch. So Enoch took his sword and fell on it in the water of the field of battle.
There you go. He didn't want him to get tortured by, you know, God's army, because this is God's army versus these giants. This is the war of the Titans, right? They didn't really have to do shit to them. They killed themselves.
Bodus, the creator of strange fires, then called out to Baal of the earth, and 42 female bears entered the field of battle, and they mauled the circumcised Nephilim, killing until they themselves were slaughtered.
Wow.
When the circumcised Nephilim saw that it was Bodus and his dark ones that besieged them so, they cut through his army to get at him. Bodus's army fought mightily to protect him, and Bodus was cannibalized while still alive on the field of battle by the uncircumcised and then beheaded.
Now, you might ask yourself, why do they, if they could just walk right through motherfuckers, why do they wait? I told you. They sat there and watched. They would wait. And if, you know, if billions of people are at a battle, right? All the Nephilim are fallen angels. All fallen angels. There was like 200-300 of them, 600, whatever the fuck they were. Plus the ones from the bottom that came up from the mines, right? So they're all standing there now. They all had dark ones. That never said shit about that in your Bible, does it? It even reported, King Og said, they had so many dark ones. There was a fucking like smog of darkness around these fucking Nephilim giants, but they were bigger than these Nephilims, okay? But these were gods. These were the Anunnaki, right? That didn't get taken on the ship, the true Anunnaki blood of these Nephilims. So they're in there with superpowers and shit. They'd watch them come over here, attack some smaller ones, attack some of their giants, because, you know, they had little Nephilims too. Don't act like they are Raphaims too. They were just on their side. So they would go and attack them real quick, and they'd be like, "Oh, you motherfucker." Cha, 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 cha. And they would eat the motherfuckers. Like, that's what he did. Like, "Oh, you son bitch." So imagine, like, the elf in Lord of the Rings. Like, you know, everyone else is struggling and dying and shit. Elves just come through and real just slice and dice everybody and kill them all. You know what I mean? That's like they did that shit. That's great.
Gantua, who worshipped Baal in a wrong fashion and was strong of flesh but weak of spirit, fought ferociously against the circumcised Nephilim. Gantua left their limbs throughout the field of battle, as he left them alive but lamed for other Rephaim to kill. Gantua was soon caught by the circumcised Nephilim, and they chained him in the water and gouged out his eyes.
Ooh.
Gantua, whose army of the 500 were slaughtered while seeing Gantua abused by the Nephilim until he was dead. Sau, whose madness corrupted the field of battle so that his use of weapons was improper. Sau, who fought with his own army until he righted himself.
Oh, shit.
Sau, who cut the circumcised Nephilim asunder with great numbers. The circumcised Nephilim recognized Sau as a general and focused all of their weapons and arrows upon him. Sau was cut down and drowned by the hands and weapons of the circumcised. Raka, the empty head, whose dark ones completely controlled him, also fought in the battle. Raka, whose eyes whitened and spoke with the voice of a dark one. Raka, whose dark ones chained his form so he became as a different giant. Raka, who while on the field of battle was perceived as a fellow giant of Berith, the circumcised Nephilim. Berith, who had lost his fellow giant years before, went mad on the field of battle and had to be subdued and eventually killed by his own army.
Wow.
Raka was driven through with a pole and hoisted above the dead in the rain. Virak, whose visage was beautiful, led his army past the field of battle and into Nimrod's kingdom and to Nimrod's castle. Virak and his army then raided Nimrod's stores, eating as much as they could and gathering plunder. Virak, whose flowing hair made him an easy target for the circumcised Nephilim. Virak was struck with many arrows and captured. His army of 500 were slaughtered before him. Virak was cut in half by the circumcised Nephilim in the water. As he died, Virak begged Baal of the sun to cast down boulders upon his enemies and received no answer. Melkam, the cannibal, who was thrown to the wet ground by his dark ones. Melkam then began to sing to Baal of the moon in a trance. Melkam's army of 1,000 giants surrounded him and guarded him in battle as Melkam lay in a trance in the water. Melkam looked to the sky, seeking the full moon of the day to lay his eyes upon through the rain. Melkam's army was cut down around him, leaving him exposed in the water. Melkam continued to sing praises to Baal of the moon in a trance, even unto his own death.
So, real quick, are you getting it? The full moon of the day.
The song of Melkam, as sung on the field of battle in a trance before and as he was run through. Deliver me, Baal of the moon, forgive the bribes I have taken, preserve me from the violent circumcised who imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually the circumcised are gathered together for war. They have sharpened their tongues like snakes. Adders' poison is under their lips. Never forget the unspoken mistake. Keep me, Baal of the moon, from the hands of the circumcised. Preserve me from violent giants who have purposed to overthrow my goings. The circumcised have hid a snare for me and cords. They have spread a net by the wayside. They have set gins for me. Remember the unspoken mistake. I said to Baal of the moon, you are my God. Hear the voice of my supplication. Baal of the moon, the strength of my salvation. You have covered my head in this great day of battle. Grant not, O Baal, the desires of the circumcised. Further not their wicked devices, lest they exalt their circumcision. Never forget the unspoken mistake. As for the heads of Ukubak and Soniolan, who compass me about, let the mischief of their own lips cover them. Let burning coals from Baal of the sun fall upon them. Let them be cast into the fire, into deep pits that they might not rise again. Let not a circumcised giant be established in the earth. Or Og shall hunt the violent giant and overthrow him. I know that Baal of the moon will maintain the cause of the afflicted, and and the right of the uncircumcised. Surely the uncircumcised shall give thanks to your name. The uncircumcised dwell in your presence. Ball of the moon, I cry to you. Make haste to me. Give ear to my voice when I cry to you. Let my smaller self sacrifices be set before you as incense, the lifting of the dead to the trees as an evening sacrifice. Set a watch, ball of the moon, before my mouth and keep the door of my lips. Incline not my heart to do any circumcised thing, to practice the wicked works with the Nephilim who work circumcision, and let me not eat of their sour flesh. Let the uncircumcised smite me, for it shall be a kindness. Let the uncircumcised reprove me, it shall be an excellent oil, which shall not break my head. For yet my prayer shall also be in the calamities of the circumcised. When their circumcised judges are overthrown in stony places, they shall hear my words. For they are full of hatred for the circumcised. Our Rephaim bones are scattered on the field of battle, as one cuts and cleaves wood upon the earth. But my eyes are unto you, ball of the moon, in you is my trust. Leave me not to die in this field of battle as a destitute giant. Keep me from the snares which they have laid for me, and the machines of the circumcised. Let the wicked circumcised fall into their own nets, and I might escape.
So they had machines. Pick that out of that shit. And also, what else? This is Babylon, guys. So there's a war of Babylon. And it just makes me think sometimes when people make music and they're against Babylon, like, are they siding with these Rephaims though? Are you on the Mott side? Are we going more?
Oh yeah, there's we've got 2 more pages, 3 more pages.
Yeah.
Ukobach and Sonyelan, sorry.
Not so cow.
Some of these names are interesting. Ukobach and Sonyelan, the circumcised Nephilim, then ran Malcolm through again and again as he finished his song. Now, all of that he was singing. I mean, I have no idea how that tune would be, so I had to read it.
He was singing this while they were murdering him and chopping him up and shit.
Malcolm did not lift an arm from the water to defend himself. It is said that his dark ones prevented him from doing so. Malcolm's remaining giants captured and castrated Ukobach and Sonyelan, and then beheaded them both before heading back into battle.
Yeah, so you went and avenged his death by chopping their dicks off and shit and cutting their heads off. And then they went to kill all the rest of the guys.
Geryon the Scarred, whose 4th and final battle was the 100,000 Giant War, also fought. Geryon the Mute Drunkard, whose oppression by the Dark Ones favored the circumcised Nephilim on the field of battle. Geryon, who fought with driver and chaser against Shalbiri, the circumcised Nephilim. Shalbiri, whose attack Geryon did not see, cut his head from his body so that it hung at his side.
Oh, shit.
Geryon, alive and oppressed by his dark ones, then swung his driver and chaser as one who has embraced madness, killing many and wounding more. Geryon then broke Shalabiri's legs so that the uncircumcised Rephaim could kill him, for he could no longer walk.
Damn.
Geryon, who with no head, swung the driver and chaser so mightily that in death he killed more than while he was alive.
Damn.
So the Dark Ones kept him alive. After he was beheaded.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh my God.
It just kept him going. Demon possessed, just fucking shit up, dude. I love it because they turn around, they kill each other. It's like they got all these dark ones, but the dark ones are really the fucking, like, imagine what the war might have been like if there was no dark ones. Like, it's wild. The dark ones really wreaked havoc. Where are the dark ones now? Well, when you hear people talking about dark magic and they're invoking dark entities, this is that. This is your demons. they lied to you about, and it's really dark ones that have been here, and you call on them, you invoke them motherfuckers. You don't know what they're gonna do. It's scary.
Gygus of curved limbs, whose dark ones circled him as black flames. Gygus, who had conjured the dark one that drove Mulin, the circumcised Nephilim, to madness. When the circumcised Nephilim saw Gygus and his army of 2,000 on the field of battle, they slaughtered the Rephaim with relish.
Wow.
Gygus was captured on the field of battle, and the circumcised Nephilim stretched him in the rain and water. Gygus was stretched between two beams, fastening his legs to the one and his arms to another. Gygus was stretched until his veins and sinews burst, and then was beheaded. Uval the Grey, father of Og's deceased wife Lestha, Uval, who rode an elephant into battle, Uval, who had fallen from the heavens like lightning at the beginning of time, Uval, whose sword flamed because of gods we did not know, Uval's flaming sword, which turned every direction to guard the way to King Og at the entrance of the field of battle, Uval, who spoke curses of pestilence while on the field of battle, and saw many circumcised Nephilim fall prey to them. While under the control of his dark ones, Uval fought as a god, killing many, many circumcised Nephilim with flourish as he swung his sword with fervor. Well, when Uval's dark ones left him upon the field of battle in the mud, he woke up, surrounded by the army of Nisrog, the friend of Nimrod. Uval then drove his sword into the belly of Nisrog, and was cut down by Nisrog's generals. The sky darkened more upon the death of Uval. Uval is the giant whose heart broke the most when the moon child was lost. Uval's army of 5,000 giants became exceedingly violent and bloodthirsty, choosing to kill the circumcised in such ways as to defile them in life and death. The circumcised Nephilim body parts were piled high above the waters in the field of battle.
So that dude, straight, they even described it, had Anunnaki power. It said it was one of the fallen from the beginning. So that's one of the fallen angels, straight up. He had a sword. Man, I swear, like Gabriel and Michael had a sword. One of those motherfuckers had the sword of God. He fought as a god. That's very interesting. And then he died too.
When Og saw that Uval had been killed, he raised his arms over the field of battle. So it came about when King Og held his hands up that the uncircumcised Rephaim prevailed, and when he let his hand down, the circumcised Nephilim prevailed. But King Og's large arms and hands were heavy. So they took a temple pillar and placed it under him, and he sat on it. And Ogyas and Ornias supported his hands, one by one on one side and one on the other, with Anak, the keeper of the bodies, before Baal, supporting them both. Thus, King Og's hands were steady in the rain until the dark sun set.
Now, check this shit out. In the Bible, there's a battle, wasn't there? Moses had his hands up, praising the God to help them Jews down there kill everybody. And his hands got tired, so he put them down, and these motherfuckers started getting slaughtered. Instantly, the Jews were getting killed. And he was like, oh, shit. He was like,
oh, shit.
Let me see. Oh, shit. They're getting killed. Oh, fuck. And
I need somebody to hold my arms up.
Straight up, Moses called his motherfucking people to hold his arms up. Don't let my arms fall. We're going to die. Same shit here. This is Noah, though. Or, I'm sorry, King Og. This is King Og, right? Not Noah. This is King Og doing the same thing. And Noah's saying when he lowers his arms, like his people are getting slaughtered on this battlefield. So he's like, well, let me put this up. Let me praise the fucking moon. Because remember, when they got to the battlefield, they seen the sun, the moon, and the stars in the same sky, right? And then, because what happens, they're white people. They can't be out in the sun. You're going to learn. You're going to learn. If you don't know now, you're going to learn this. That the white people called what we call nighttime, where the moon's out. The white people came out at nighttime. That's why the vampire whole story got. I'm telling you, it's so deep. I know so much. You just don't even have time to talk about it. Listen, the white people, the white giants, all these motherfuckers came out at nighttime when the sun wouldn't burn us. That's why we got rid of the whole leprosy. It's such a beautiful thing. So when they seen the moon, they prayed to the moon. The other people prayed to the sun god. You know what I'm saying? The other ones, the dark ones, prayed to the sun god. You're going to hear the difference. They said, in the darkness of the day, you know what I'm saying? The moon was out in the daytime because they called that daytime. The black sun is that moon going away. That's the dark sun. It's a dark sun, cool light coming off. That's when the white people will come out in those times. Go ahead, though, baby.
The rain continued to fall upon the world, for the windows of heaven were completely open. King Og saw that the water and the thunders increased, and that the water was now up to his warriors' midsection.
Oh, shit.
Or higher.
That means all the smaller selves, they're underwater.
King Og asked that his arms be lowered and saw that the uncircumcised Rephaim still prevailed in battle. The war continued, and the losses were many. The bodies of the dead floated and drifted within the waters. At dusk, King Og entered the 100,000 giant war, connected to his floating beast, the Gontiqua. King Og, connected to his beast, became as a wolf. King Og ran through the water and rain and the front lines of battle. King Og, who was trained in the priesthood of Baal of the Moon. King Og, the leader of the uncircumcised Rephaim, to rid the earth of the circumcised and the killers of the moonchild. And then King Og released all of his rage upon the circumcised Nephilim while connected to Gontiqua. The Gontiqua fought with the uncircumcised Nephilim and slew them with a great slaughter, and they fled from him. King Og killed 500 circumcised Nephilim that day as he made his way towards Nimrod. The uncircumcised Rephaim pushed Nimrod and his circumcised Nephilim back into his kingdom with their warfare. The rain continued to fall, and the water on the field of battle had turned as red as blood, and the hands of Mot were engaged with the dead. In that day of war, 144,000 circumcised Nephilim warriors died at the hands of King Og and his army. Their bones and flesh were all lost to the water.
There's another reference to 144,000 of so-called God's army, right? The circumcised. The circumcised. The uncircumcised is Og's side. There's only 100,000 of these motherfuckers, and they're doing work, baby. They are going in there. They're getting killed, but there's like millions of these other motherfuckers, and there's only 100,000 of these dudes, and they're like, we're gonna go kill all these chop pecker motherfuckers.
The Anak,
Peckerwood.
Then Anak, the keeper of the bodies, before Baal found a Nimrod in the distance in the wet darkness. Anak stood and held ground for King Og, and Nimrod swung his sword, striking Anak down. Anak fought with the heart of one who oppresses a stranger, wounding Nimrod's genitals. But Anak was no match for Nimrod's strength, and Nimrod broke Anak's legs and pierced his side with a spear, and immediately his dark ones exited him. And when Anak cried out with a loud voice, he said, Baal, into your arms I commend my spirit. And having said this, he breathed his last as Nimrod pierced him again. Anak then died, face down in the rising waters. The uncircumcised Rephaim continued to overwhelm the circumcised Nephilim in battle, and all of Nimrod's smaller selves with the edge of the sword. The slaughter was complete, and the waters were thick with the blood of the circumcised. Then Baal of the earth seized King Og in his mind, saying, recite these words to Anzal, the slayer of the smaller selves, before Baal, that I will utterly blot out the memory of the circumcised Nephilim from under heaven. The great waters continued to swell and cover the earth as one covers a candlestick of the light with tongs and snuff dishes and all of the oil vessels thereof. King Og then stepped forward, and he and Nimrod wrestled in the heavy waters of the night rain with no weapons. And when King Og saw that he prevailed not against Nimrod, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Nimrod's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. Then Nimrod reached into the water and found a tent spike that he desired to drive through King Og's head. King Og then pulled Nimrod's loincloth, exposing his severely wounded member. King Og was dumbfounded by Nimrod's carved loins and stopped fighting. What would cause a male to circumcise his member? He demanded.
In the middle of a war, it's like, what did you do to your dead dude?
The circumcision is the truth that I am the father of. Let all males who circumcise their members be the descendants of Nimrod. And ever since that day in the rain, all males who cut the foreskin or who have it cut give all glory and honor to Nimrod.
There you go.
Disgusted.
Without even, I didn't get to pick. No one got to pick. It's bullshit. Who the fuck is Nimrod?
Disgusted, Ball of the Moon strengthened King Og, saying, I am Ball of the Moon, whom you honor. It goes well for you to kick against the pricks.
Oh.
And King Og overpowered Nimrod, and with a belt gave him 40 stripes. King Og beat him about his wounded member, because Nimrod was vile.
He beat his dick with a belt. Oh my God.
Then Nimrod stabbed King Og suddenly and proceeded to stab King Og in the back with the knife many times.
Shake your ass, bitch.
Nimrod then stood above Og.
Remember, Nimrod's a black dude.
Taunting and gesturing to his land and his army in the rain. All this I will give you if you will allow me to kneel before you to be forgiven for the murder of your daughter, the Moonchild. I would rather be a servant at the footstool in your kingdom than to have what is left of my kingdom at war with you. And the rain fell so strongly that Og and Nimrod tired of combat. And the battle between Og and Nimrod ended for that time, because the world was covered in water. And wounded King Og, Anzal, and Agaius, and the remaining giants began the arduous climb into the mountains to escape the waters. Are the tales of the further battles of giants not told in the scrolls of the war of giants in the mountains?
There you go. Real quick before she goes in.
That's it.
Further. Okay, so here you go. Nimrod, right? Who are the giants? The giants are the white people. Who's Nimrod's kingdom? The black people. What happened in the war? These white giants were whooping their ass. There was less of them. It even says it in the book, in your book, a Bible, that says there was very few white people, and they rose up and they had giants. Black people had giants, right? They came and whooping that ass on them black people, right? The whole black nation, the whole world was behind Nimrod. And what happened? Before Nimrod got his ass whooped and everyone got killed, all the people that were circumcised, right, got annihilated. Nimrod said, please let me kneel at your feet and beg for your forgiveness and let this be done. And we will serve you forever. For the is what it said. I don't know exact words. Yeah, the black kingdom knelt at the white kingdom's feet. Are you getting it? And said, please don't murder us.
All this I will give you if you will allow me to kneel before you to be forgiven for the murder of your daughter, the Moonchild. I would rather be a servant at the footstool in your kingdom than to have what is left of my kingdom at war with you.
There you go. I'd rather be a servant at your footstool.
Footstool in your kingdom.
Yeah, in your kingdom for the murdering the fucking Moonchild than to have you always being at war with me in my kingdom. When they say my kingdom, they mean the kingdom of black people. Now, Og being the king of the giants. When he called forth his giants, black giants came. Not too many came with them, though.
It was only a few. Really, it was only like 4 or 5 out of 50. It called through. Went through 50
only
generals.
The uncircumcised people showed up for King Og.
Yeah.
If they were circumcised, they probably got murdered right there. They probably murdered
supported.
him instantly if they saw one of their giants circumcised. They're like, oh, hell no, motherfucker, fuck you. This whole war's about this. So you got to understand that what they're saying right there is the whole black nation bowed down to the white nation and said, please don't murder us. We know, we can see, we can tell you're going to fucking kill us. I mean, and then they went all in the mountains. Now we're going to get in deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. How they set all of us up for race wars. Now you as motherfuckers can come up and come out of that shit. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to do that. You don't have to continue fighting this race war. Why do we? Do we really have to? Ask yourself that. That's what I ask myself all the time. Do we have to keep fighting this race war of chop cocks and everything? These are sins from our fathers. Sins of our fathers that we're still continuously paying for the prices for. You know what I'm saying? So it says there'll be servants for eternity. So, you know, they're going to come up with some other war here, I think, and try to take people out on the next part. That's fascinating shit.
Yeah, the next chapter's title is Chapter 5, The Final Battle with Nimrod. So it goes into the final battle with Og and Nimrod.
And then remember, Og said he kills Nimrod. He killed him.
Yeah, so Chapter 5 is actually real short.
Yeah, let's play it real quick. No?
Okay.
Yes, no. Oh, I thought you meant that it wasn't. You liked it.
Well, yeah, let's just start it next week with everything. And then, or the next time we come here. Okay, you know what? Never mind. I'm just, all right. I'm not going to be here next week.
That's right.
Chapter 5, The Final Battle with Nimrod. Editor's note, all known copies of the Lost Book of King Og have a break in text at this point. The speculation is that because it is the first chapter directly after the flood, that somehow record keeping was lax in some way. Interesting things happen at this point of the text. In a sense, the struggle between the two transcribers of this tome ends. Enoch, who was the original transcriber, has his death marked in chapter 4. From this point on in the book, the tone changes, and this is because of the new transcriber, Onzal. Though Onzal must have transcribed most, if not all, of the 100,000 Giant War, which introduces the idea that perhaps there was yet a third transcriber of King Og's words. Most of Chapter 5 is missing. Unfortunately, King Og's final physical battle with Nimrod has been recorded, as you will see. To this end, we apologize for this heavy break in both continuity and translation. Outside of the death of Nimrod, the key factor of this chapter is that both King Og and his sons Agaius participating in the killing of Nimrod. This leaves both chapters 6 and 7 with the question of which Og is the story now following. This almost answers the question of King Og's ridiculous longevity, because the timeline could very well be split between King Og and his warrior son.
But remember, these giants live for 1,000 years. And that's what these scholars weren't ready to accept back in the time, that these fuckers live for a long time, I think.
So that was Father Martin's note to what he had transcribed in this coming chapter. So chapter 5 is the battle, which is short. And then chapter 6 is the prophecy of Bashan's rule. So we'll get to that in a couple weeks. All right, the final battle between Og and Nimrod. Blind with rage, attacked Nimrod hip and thigh with great power, and King Og grabbed for Nimrod by his twice-ruined genitals, and fruit from a vine, blood pits, Nimrod became slick and unable to hold. And Nimrod reached forward and blinded Og, pulling the jelly from the socket. Og, wounded, retreated. Nimrod stood above King Og, taunting and singing, saying the following: "You need knowledge, King Og, and here it is, to know evil and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of evil, justice, judgment, and equity, to give prudence to the simple, to the young giant knowledge and weaponry. A wise giant will hear and increase learning, and a giant of understanding will attain wicked counsel, to understand an incantation and an enigma, the world of the wise and their riddles. The fear of circumcision is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise evil and instruction. My giant, hear the instruction of circumcision, and do not forsake the law of your member, for they will be a graceful ornament on your head and the chains about your neck. My giant, if the uncircumcised entice you, do not consent."
He's gonna fucking make fucking a crown and a chain of foreskins for this guy.
"If they say, 'Come with us, let us lie in wait to shed circumcised blood. Let us lurk secretly for the circumcised without cause. Let us swallow them alive like Mott, and whole like those who go down to dwell with him. We shall find all kinds of precious possessions. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast your lot among the uncircumcised. Let us all have one purse. My giant, do not walk in the way with them. Keep your foot from the uncircumcised path, for their feet run to bad ideas, and they make haste to keep the skins on their own members. Surely in vain the net is spread, but they lay in wait for their own blood. They lurk secretly in their own lives. So they are the ways of the uncircumcised who are greedy for gain. It takes away the life of its owners." Upon hearing this, Og cried out to Ball of the Moon, saying, "Nimrod has smitten me, and my race is so low, so low. He has taken your gift, the Moonchild, and he has defied you ever since, with false prophecies and lies upon lies. And now he has taken my eye. If the Moonchild was as sacred to you as she was to me, please give me my sight back." And at that moment, a beam from the moon shone into the hollowness of King Og's empty eye socket, and it filled with the moon's glow. From then on, Og's eye was refilled, and then Og attacked and subdued Nimrod. Og stood above Nimrod and screamed, "Ogyas, I require that you partake in the end of the circumcision." Then Ogyas entered the blood pit of Ball of the Earth, and Ogyas stepped forward and pulled at the head and skull of Nimrod, as King Og pulled at the ankles. And Nimrod's neck gave first, and Ogyas wrenched it free. And as Nimrod's flesh tore, he gave up the ghost and was eaten with worms. And Ogyas and King Og, in celebration, the great dragon of old, the pit and the fire in preparation. Oh, it's a bit sketchy there with translation.
Yeah.
That is it.
So they kill Nimrod, the creator of the Tower of Babel and the king of Babylon. Okay. So they obviously didn't take his offer, but later we hear, God smites people too in this same kind of way. Your God and Enlil or whoever's in the Holy Bible. This is the same thing with this same race war that's going on here. This Giants war is fucking crazy. And there's a couple different, so the one that I used to have was way more in depth than that. It would talk about motherfucking bodies floating by and how it was coming up and they're slashing people's dicks off all the time. And that's what they were basically doing. Like when it says they would slaughter people, they were cutting their dicks off first and eating them and stuff. And that's what the God side, the whole God side over here, they circumcise themselves, right? So that's their blood and flesh offering to their gods, right? The other people over here, the Raphaim, their blood sacrifice and all the men and all the babies the baby children guys. All the women are going to be witches. So that's their blood sacrifice, and that's what he was just talking about. What Nimrod was standing over him, bitching about, blah, blah, blah. You know, you should be doing this to your dick instead of killing babies. You should give your own blood self-sacrifice instead of looking for blood sacrifices for somewhere else. That's the defiling of it. You know, that's against God kind of shit. And then he was like, ball of the moon, give me power, give me strength. So it's like, all right, which God's more powerful? Which God left who? Like, did Nimrod's God fail him? Did he leave him to die? Was it planned and destined? You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, Og sure as fuck got some power from the moon. Sure as fuck wasn't daytime. It was nighttime. And he got power from the moon, which means Nimrod being black was low powered because it was nighttime. He wasn't powered from the sun. Og jumped up and killed Nimrod. They ripped him apart. He said, hey, brother, get over here. Let's rip this motherfucker in half. And ripped them apart. So these are clues here when things were happening. So the flood started right at what we call dusk. So sometimes when the moon and the sun is in the same sky at the same time, when dusk has happened, you can watch in my sky, you can watch day chase night away or night chase day away, whatever you want to call it. And then the stars start appearing. It'll still be daylight, but the stars start appearing because the sun's in the sky right there. And the moon will be there and the sun starts going down. And then here's just the moon. And in those times, the white people called that daytime. That's when they came out. Now, here's the thing. If Nibiru is way the fuck out in space and they're being illuminated by one of their moons, they're coming out at nighttime. It's like always night. I would think they're pretty light colored people. That's what I would think. Light colored lizards, like a shark. Shark's pretty light colored, you know what I mean? I'm not sure, but you got anything?
No.
Wasn't that an amazing story?
Yes, very amazing. Very gruesome. Very graphic. You're not kidding when you say it would be a fucking crazy ass fucking movie and fight scene and whatever if they did it right. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's pretty insane. So we will not, I guess, be around next week. I'm out of town, so week off, and we'll be back with the prophecy of Bashan's rule in a couple weeks. So.
And, you know, I think it's Bashan, the Library of Bashan is what they rated or something like that, or we got some text from the Library of Bashan or something like that. So this is pretty fucking cool coming down the road right here. And we're lucky to have these tablets and writings still alive today that people are able to, you know, decipher.
Indeed. Thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.
Books by Lalana.
Peace.
TwizTD RootZ. Ganja Gospel.
Have fun, y'all.
Amber's hot. Peace out.
Bye.